Testing. 1, 2, 3. Over the past couple of days, we've had a pretty good chill. This winter, we've got snow, wind, and the cold is for real. It's time to sit back, get cozy, and reminisce about the past. So welcome to Backlit Cinema, the podcast. My name is Zoe, that's spelled Z-O or Z to the O for those of you outside of the U.S. It's the 130th episode. Thank you for downloading and streaming. We really appreciate it. We watch the movies of yesteryear that I loved when I was growing up in the latter half of the 1900s. If you like what you're about to hear, then please tell your family, tell your friends, and tell that lone driver in a post-apocalyptic wasteland about Backlit Cinema, the podcast. And now, as promised, I brought back a guest, and he has brought a plus one because we recorded before, and you didn't get a chance to hear that recording because it sounded like bunk. Now, I was going to play a sample of how bad this recording sounded, but I decided, you know what? I'm going to keep that terrible error to myself. I'm ashamed of it, and I'm not going to share it with anyone. But they're back, the two of them. So let me present to you, in this corner, from parts unknown, we have two of the most dynamic consumers of film this country has ever seen. Everything from comedy to musical to horror is subject to their unwavering glare. Their vast knowledge on the medium of the motion picture will leave you unsettled. Ladies, gentlemen, and genders across the spectrum, I gladly present to you Wes King and Gunch.
I don't think I've ever been introduced in such a way. I am honored.
Yeah, I hope it was better than the last time.
I don't even. It must be. I don't even remember how you introduced me last time. But this blows the whole thing away. Everything like that was the best introduction anyone's ever introduced me ever. Wow. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
Well, thank you. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for coming back. As the audience does not know, the film that we were supposed to do was Castaway. And, we did the whole recording. It sounded great. I loved having you on. And then I listened to the playback and I goosed the recording. And I thank you for coming back. It was a blast.
Yeah. It's an episode that lives forever in mine and your memory.
Right. And Gunch, thank you for joining us. I appreciate you coming on with your
thank you so much.
Film knowledge. And I'm glad to have you both on because both of you're doing more than just watching movies like I do. You're actually into the movies. You're actually making short movies. You're actually taking film classes. You're actually in the industry. So are both of you, are you still in school?
I am.
I graduated.
Awesome. When did you graduate?
I graduated in 2022. No, yeah, 2022.
Oh, okay, that's a while ago.
Feels like forever ago, but it wasn't that long ago.
Right. So you've had, so are you working in the industry right now?
I was working in the industry for a while, doing commercials, did a few films, did a lot of short films, mostly as just like a production assistant, but I did some cinematography, did some grip work, some acting. But I just couldn't get with the schedule.
Right.
And I really like movies. So in order to kind of keep that magic, I just decided to apply my unwavering glare to films instead of from within.
So I have seen some of Wes's shorts, and some of them have something to be desired, and then some of them left me unsettling. So have you been able to do any shorts?
Yeah, the man Wes has got major talent. I have a lot of shorts, but at this point I want to remake them.
Right.
They are out on YouTube if you can find me.
Okay.
So challenge, you can find me if you want. You can try. But and I did win an award for a few of them. One that was experimental documentary on domestic abuse. which was kind of a more serious one. But then another one, I won an award for a horror comedy about a TV show chef personality who has a clown that's chasing him that represents his anxieties. He was playing with raw eggs and everything like that. It was a lot of fun.
Awesome.
But I just want to remake it. You never have enough budget in film school.
Yeah.
Sounds.
And when I made that, I didn't get enough like technical knowledge. There wasn't like, and I ddidn't have access to good like equipment.
Right.
So it ended up being real kind of lower quality. And while that kind of works, I don't know, I'm moving forward.
Right. Well, that you do the best you can with what you have, and I understand like the struggle to get equipment is real. So I understand.
Oh my God, so bad.
Yes,
so expensive.
Yeah. It's not fun. Although I did hear about this. I forgot it was some film. I remember now. It was The Creator. So in The Creator, one of the things that they said about the film that was so fascinating was that they basically they filmed it on like a consumer level camera, like a camera that like most folks can probably get out of Walmart or some other place like that.
It was like a Sony F series camera, wasn't it? I
can't remember, but I remember it cost $4,000, and people were remarking how they was able to shoot that film on a $4,000 camera, and I thought that was fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I was in I was in a film festival in Oaxaca in Mexico, and every other, I was talking with the filmmakers who were in my program, and they were all, oh, well, so what was your budget? And I would say probably about $250. And they would look at me like I was crazy. And I'd be like, how much was yours? Somewhere around 15,000.
Right.
Oh,
you know what?
For a short that was the same size as me and in the same program. Sorry.
Not only that, but had you had the opportunity to feature that in even one theater, I believe you would have made more than your money back.
Right. Hey, I mean, Paranormal Activity, man. Right. That whole, I love that narrative. That's why I love like indies.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm super into that. And movies like Mad Max 2, when they weren't able to cut corners back then.
Right.
So there was all sorts of crazy stuff that they had to do.
Right.
Not to say that I want people to get hurt on a film set, but it was a lot more high stakes.
Yeah, that's exactly right. We don't want people to get hurt. And then they'll use the footage anyways.
Yeah.
So, Wes, could you not remind our audiences, they didn't hear the first interview, but could you tell people about some of the shorts that you did?
So just about everything I have made has been through my program as a student so far. So they've all been student short films, except for I did work on one professional project outside of school, and I don't think that film has premiered yet. So I don't know when it's going to come out. But when that one comes out, that one is called La Belle Dame Sans Merci, which is the woman without mercy in French. And that I worked as a first AC on. And then other than that, I have made only student films, and some that I'm really proud of. One is called The Eyes of the Beholder, which is like about this guy who is like he's a peeping Tom, and he ends up snapping pictures of the wrong girl, and he gets followed home by like an entity essentially that comes to steal his eyes. And that one was a lot of fun to work on. That was probably my biggest project because that involved like makeup and special effects and like 3 days of shooting, and that was just a ton of fun. And then other than that, I've made a few others, one called Ideation that I'm kind of proud of. That one was kind of like inspired by Skinamarink, and that one I'm proud of because it was like fully a solo project. So I didn't have a crew. I didn't have anyone except myself and my camera. And that was kind of exciting. And what I ended up with was, not at all what I was thinking of at the start. So that was just like a really exciting project to see it like kind of, be created as as I was creating it. I didn't go in with like a script or a plan or anything when I shot it. I just kind of shot it and then, figured things out in the edit and then just added voiceover to it to make it all work. And it was kind of fun. It was cool. But yeah, the goal in the future is to, hopefully work on bigger films, like the ultimate dream, really. I just want to be in theaters, but, we'll see if that happens. But
it'll happen.
Yeah, I'm just working towards that.
Yeah. And in spite of the, and a lot of it is not your fault, especially for this year for either of you, because there have been a couple of work stoppages and strikes, and you got to make sure that you get your a fair deal and fair treatment. And there's still some questions about some of the treatment that you might get going forward with all of the stuff people are talking about, like AI and copyright stealing and that sort of thing. But I just hope that it's a brighter future for filmmaking for the both of you.
Yeah, I hope so.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
That was a big reason why. That was also a big reason why I left filmmaking for the time being, because where I work, a lot of crews were actually fourthed or fifth, meaning like if there was a 25-person crew, it would become a 5-person crew.
Right.
And it was such a stupid reason. The reason was because there might be an economic collapse in the summer of 2023.
Right.
So that's when I kind of stopped, was in the summer of 2023, and everybody just stopped hiring as many people. Producers weren't like getting camera people. They weren't getting crew people. They were just doing it all themselves. They call it run and gun.
Right.
Run and gun projects. So the producer would come and be doing everything.
Right.
I'd say, well, because I worked at a camera rental shop, so I would meet all these producers and ask them if they need help. And when I would ask them, they would just say, well, this is a more of a run and gun. You could come along, but it would be a freebie.
Right.
And it's like, yeah, no, that's not how it works. Sorry.
Yeah, I can't. I'm struggling too.
I love doing this, but it's called bills.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
So, let me ask you this. What's the most important thing that you've learned from film school for the both of you?
Wes?
If you have to call somebody out, do it to their face and do it in front of other people.
We talked about that story on our original recording.
Yeah. Never, ever, ever. Like, you might think you're doing them a favor by saying, hey, I didn't appreciate how that happened. You think you're doing them a favor by sending it in a nice little text in private, but no, you're not. They're
Yeah.
Or another way of putting it is, don't insult somebody who can make a movie.
Yeah.
Or a song in Taylor Swift's case.
There's that too, yeah.
But if they waste, but I mean, it takes a village. Like if they waste everybody's time, they need to understand that they did that too.
Right.
If they switch things up at the last minute, or if they flake out at the last minute because they weren't taking the project seriously, especially when there's like a group of like, a lot of the films that I was working on, there were 25 to 50 people who were there. And like for the commercials, it was often more than that. Yeah. Like if a celebrity was involved, like if Giannis was involved or Aaron Rodgers, the crew would be closer to like 150, 250 sometimes. And if certain people don't show up, that just means that either production will get halted no matter what.
Right.
Even if that means it got halted for a half hour while they try to figure out how they can work without this person who decided not to show up. And that unfortunately was all too common in film school.
Yeah, it's endlessly frustrating. Basically,
when I would pay people to be on my sets. Like I believed in that.
Right. Like
I still got flakeouts all the time. Very frustrating.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's impossible. You have to go in with the mindset that unless you've worked with somebody before and like they've proven themselves to be defendable, like do not depend on anybody, no matter how enthused they seem about the project. You just cannot. You have to always have a backup in mind. You have to always be kind of like ready to, wing something or play double duty or ask somebody else to do double duty. Like Yeah, it's very frustrating. It's so frustrating because you can never count on anybody, especially in film school. I'm hoping it'll be better when I'm actually out in the industry. But
it's a little better.
Yeah.
But I'm sure there are always going to be hurdles and things to work through on a film set, because that just seems to be the nature of making film. It's just that it's always like a crapshoot almost, but like you pull through.
Well, and I imagine that in when in the industry, there are things called contracts, and the reason that they have contracts is to ensure that the people who sign these contracts are fulfill their obligations. So I don't think you'll have as much of a problem when you on some of the professional work as you would in film school.
Right.
So
I've worked on films where actors didn't sign contracts, and the whole thing got done. It got shot. Post-production happened, and then before it got released, the actors said, "Well, I don't want to be in this. It's too scary. I don't want my grandma to see it."
That's the worst.
And they didn't sign any sort of what's it called? They didn't sign a release form.
Right.
So the film had to be redone.
Wow, that's terrible.
I've seen that happen twice. Once on my own film,
right,
and once on a film that I was working on, and I wasn't aware that the director didn't know that.
Right. That's sad. Sad beans.
I would say. Well, sorry. I would say on a more hopeful note. I don't even call it cynical, but on a note for what I learned in film school, the most important thing is pre-production.
Yes.
Being organized.
Yes.
You can eliminate 99% of a problem, 99% of problems on a set if you have a schedule, if you have notes, if you have a script, if you have a shot list, if you have everything planned out. So it has to just be a well-oiled machine in order to work. And if it isn't, sometimes it could turn out well, but a lot of people are going to be upset at the end of it, whether because the film shoot went too late, people weren't getting enough to eat, or there were fights over creative differences and what have you. So that's super important. And I still don't, I'm not on, I'm not really on sets anymore. I kind of put that life on hiatus for a little while, but towards the end, I was still seeing shoots that didn't have any pre-production care put in. And they were chaotic and disorganized because of that.
Right.
So if you're a filmmaker, that is extremely underrated, I'll say.
Right.
Story,
almost, I would say, the most important part of the whole process.
Absolutely. I agree. Yeah.
Yeah. That I feel like that can be applied to a lot of different disciplines. So like the podcast deal, right? Or like TikTok. I'm pretty sure that you have to, if you're not writing a script, you at least have to know what you're about to say before you say it. Knowing your subject, and so on and so forth. I've seen Wes has a bunch of outtakes that he published on TikTok because he's not ashamed to show his failures. So. So that
you're such a king.
The outtakes are really funny. So as far as that goes, so Wes has Wes Talk Movies Gunch. You have Film Gunch, or Film_Gunch. So let me ask the both of you why TikTok? Why did you choose that medium? Why didn't you choose like Instagram or YouTube as your main outlet?
I could speak on that unless you want to first, Wes.
You go first. I got to think my answer.
Well, first of all, I don't like Meta. I never liked Meta. I always thought that the way that they organize their social media is really sort of money based and very frustrating for that reason. It's almost kind of like film. It feels like you have to have connections unless you get really lucky and go viral. But a lot of times going viral is helped by money, by knowing a lot of people, by having a large friends list. And with TikTok, you just send it out into the world. And I feel like with TikTok, I've met so many people that I wouldn't have met on something like Instagram, or Facebook or even YouTube. I guess YouTube is pretty similar. And I did do YouTube when I was, before TikTok was a thing with all my film stuff. But I really like the short form video content too. And also TikTok feels a lot more progressive than other social medias. And those are my types of people.
Right.
It really is frustrating when I post something and a bunch of people come in like saying some wildly sexist or racist things. And I feel like that happened a lot when I was trying to do like Facebook and Instagram.
Right.
So yeah, TikTok just has generally been the most favorable for that reason, in my opinion.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm sort of dabbling in there. What about you, Wes?
Yeah, I definitely feel that. I've never liked Facebook. I actually haven't had Facebook for like several years because of how much it's just such a nightmare. You say anything on Facebook and somebody comes in with like some ridiculous combative statement. Like, it's like, okay, sorry, I liked something. Whoops. Oops.
Yeah.
But like,
it's bad on Facebook.
So
that's real.
I haven't had it. The last time I was on Facebook was during the pandemic. I started a Facebook up again after not having one for several years. And like, I think I was on for like 2 weeks and then I was like, I hate this. And I got off of it. But I actually did want to do YouTube and I still kind of do. I think I might eventually break into YouTube for like more longer form kind of like video essay type videos. Cause I really want to start doing that. But what was really attractive about TikTok to me was just that it really seemed kind of community based. Like it was people kind of like it's obviously not like a conversation like we're having now, but it felt more kind of conversational. Like somebody would, say something and then you'd see like a stitch or a duet or, and it seemed more like people were kind of sharing ideas rather than just consuming media and that.
And shit talking in the comments.
Yeah, absolutely. There was more conversation actually happening in the comments versus like YouTube, where it's more like, it seems often kind of just silly jokes or, there's not a lot of conversation happening elsewhere, it seems, especially like on Instagram. I never see conversation really happening on Instagram. But, and that's what I thought was really nice about TikTok. And it took me a long time to get into TikTok because I kind of fell for the idea that it was like some Chinese spy app or whatever. For like, I wasn't like it wasn't like I had like really believed that, but like that was all I had heard of TikTok as. Like when I first heard of TikTok, somebody like mentioned it was like a Chinese spy app, and I was like, oh, okay, whatever. And so like I was like, why is everyone on TikTok then? Like, what is going on? And eventually I finally got on it, and I was like, oh, this is cool, whatever.
Right.
And
well, and that idea is so wrong because that data is getting sold by Alphabet.
Yeah, that's
Anyways.
the problem. See, the thing is that if you say that they're using it, or like the Chinese are using it as a spy app, the response should be, so what? Because they're just buying it from Facebook anyway, or Meta, or they're buying it from Google. So it's not like they can't get it anywhere.
Right.
It's like, and then
what our own corporations are selling our data. So.
Right. And what do they really know about me anyway? They know where I live and they know what I like, and it just, a lot of people know these things, right?
Yeah. Right. Snowden happened before TikTok. What difference does it make?
I think that it's really just a political way to skew people away from like a Chinese property. It's a Chinese item that's super popular and people don't like that. And what I really hate is when they compare it to they compare the US version or basically the rest of the world version of TikTok to the Chinese version of TikTok. And they're like, see, the only thing they watch is math educational videos on Chinese TikTok and
the horror.
Yeah, the horror. But see, the thing about it is that, well, if they're only watching a certain type of videos that seem more educational on the Chinese version, it's because the Chinese media is controlled by China. Like there are certain websites that you can't go to in China. In China, you can't look at a picture of the Winnie the Pooh or even talk about Winnie the Pooh, right? So it's many things. Like Winnie the Pooh is now public domain, but it's like there's no access to Winnie the Pooh, at least no legal access to Winnie the Pooh in China. So that's because their media is controlled and ours isn't. So we're allowed to look at people dancing. We're allowed to look at political content, and some of my favorite is the biblical scholarship videos. So I like the way that it tailors to your tastes. So it's got a fantastic.
It does have like among the best algorithm. I feel like for sure.
And you're right about the conversation is I think the concept of stitching or duets is like brand new, and all the other socials are trying to copy that format. But I think that's another reason why TikTok is so popular. As a matter of fact, trying to have like a text conversation or a comment conversation on TikTok is frustrating because they are super limited on characters.
Yeah. I'm constantly having to get really creative with how I like want to say something. And then like, I look back at the comment. I'm like, did I really convey my meaning?
Right.
I'm not sure.
And I know why. It's
that's better. Like if you want to talk smack, you know, it's put up a video.
That's exactly right.
At least be real about it.
It's like,
whereas like on other apps, you can just say it and never have to admit who you are or what you look like.
You can say it and spray it.
Right. You can say it and spray it. Yeah. Where you shouldn't spray it.
Right. All right. Thanks. This is a fantastic interview. I feel like I've learned a lot, especially about you two. So let me ask you to go ahead and talk about your social medias, where people can find you.
I can be found at West Talk Movies on TikTok, or Wespresso_films is also my handle, I believe, on TikTok. And then if you search like Wespresso Bean, I think that finds my Instagram. I should probably make sure that I know what it is, but it's all up on a link tree on my TikTok. You can find everything that you would ever want to find of me on that link tree. So go ahead and click on that. And then of course I have with my wonderful co-host Gunch, who is with us today, the Filmsomniacs podcast, which is on Spotify. Well, it's on everywhere that you can listen to it actually. So yeah, check us out. We had Zoe on talking about the Mark of Zorro not too long ago. And that was an absolute blast. Yeah, it was fantastic. Great watch. Great having him on the pod. It was a blast. And that's where you can find me.
Yeah. I love Wes. Wes is a very dear friend of mine. I'm so happy that we do that pod together. We did go on hiatus because the holidays were looking kind of crazy for the both of us, but we are going to start it back up again. Our last episode was with Zoe, who is fantastic. Zoe, thank you so much for coming on again. You're more than welcome to come back anytime. And thank you for having us on. And my name is Gunch, Film Gunch. You can find me at Gunch or Film Gunch on TikTok. That's the big one that I'm doing right now. Like Wes says, I have a link tree where you can find Filmsomniacs information, my Twitch. I haven't really gotten my Twitch started. You know, I'm probably just going to start doing that on TikTok because I actually like the TikTok community more than the Twitch community. Like, really, TikTok is my favorite one.
Right.
But yeah. Got a Discord server. Not a lot of people are on that right now, but you're more than welcome to come on and talk about movies and stuff like that. And more content is coming. Currently producing a radio play that I'm very excited about, and I'm writing, which I'm going to start releasing that soon.
Yeah,
so I'm very excited.
Your
about
radio
that.
play is a little bit, you could say, relatable to the film we're talking about today. Actually.
Yeah, it is actually. It is. It's post-apocalyptic, sexy. You might even say kind of homoerotic, like Road Warrior is.
Well, since
yes, I love Road Warrior for that reason. I love the apocalyptic aesthetic.
All right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, first, before we move forward, I would like to thank you for coming on, and thank you for having me on Filmsomniacs. I had a blast talking about the Mask of Zorro. It was, is it the Mask of Zorro or the Mark of Zorro? The Mark of Zorro. Yeah. And this was the 1932 version, 1930s version, something like that. I can't remember the exact year, but
it was 40s. I think it was
1942
because
or something like that.
They've had several versions of that movie. So
or just 1940 maybe. Yeah.
1940.
Right.
Yep.
So the funny thing about it was that there was a lot of trepidation about watching a movie that was that old, because I remember watching. I think I told you I watched pieces of it. I don't remember watching the whole thing all the way through. So it's a little bit interpretation because of modern filmmaking now and filmmaking back in the, back in the 1940s or whatever. But I found.
And you're going to get culture shock with the writing too a lot of the time. Yeah. But this movie feels like it. That movie felt like it held up. There are some movies in the 40s that really feel like they held up. Yeah. Others not so much.
And sometimes I just like the language that they use in the 40s or that continental accent that they use sometimes.
the transatlantic
transatlantic accent.
Yeah, see, we're gonna go here and then we're gonna go there. Yeah.
So I do enjoy that sometimes, but I was pleasantly surprised about how that turned out. So let me ask you real quick. I think it's Amazon Prime has a new version of Zorro. It's going to be a Zorro TV series. It's actually going to be it's I think it was produced in Mexico, which is apropos. This will be the first time that I know of that there's actually a Zorro that's actually produced in Mexico. So that alone I find fascinating because it's going to be in Spanish. So it's
nice.
With English subtitles.
That's how it should be.
Right?
Yeah. Right. That's awesome.
Wow. That sounds pretty great. I've never even heard of that, but just you saying that alone makes me super hyped.
Yeah, I had only just heard about this like briefly the other day. I haven't really looked into it much, but I think that's kind of exciting. I'm going to check it out. I'll probably check it out.
Yeah, I definitely want to check it out. I've been trying to catch up on and close out other shows that I've been watching so I can get started on Zorro. So, and then I made the mistake of starting a new series that I probably end up finishing. So later on that sort of thing.
What series is it? What series is this?
So
that's a great
I was having
series.
some problems with my audio, right? So it was like I was switching on. I have a smart TV. There are different apps on the smart TV, and I was switching between different apps, and the voices and the lips weren't perfectly synced. So I was going through different shows trying to figure out what the problem was. If I had to turn off and turn my TV on again, if I had to switch. Because I was listening through headphones. So if I had to switch headphones or something, because I was trying to figure it out. And so I was like, and I didn't want to watch like an hour show to figure it out. I just wanted to watch something short. So I looked on Netflix to see if I could find a half-hour show. I found a good place. Like, well, I've always heard that this was a good show, so let me try it out. And the premise of that show is outstanding. I was like, well, I guess I'm gonna have to finish this then.
Ted Danson is phenomenal. If you like Ted Danson, he is phenomenal in that show. Anybody listening, I would recommend The Good Place.
Yeah.
If you like sort of like feel good comedy TV, it is fantastic.
Yeah,
and that's like one of the best shows you could have like accidentally started watching.
Right.
So you like turned it on to test your audio, and then you got sucked in.
And then
that's great.
And then another show that I was testing out was Key and Peele. I was trying to find. I had started watching like a while ago, and I think I got like maybe the middle of the second season, but now I don't know where I was when I left off, so I'm starting all over again, and it's just as funny as I watched it the first time.
Oh yeah, they're great.
And another show I was looking at was I can't remember. Oh, Generation V, because I have to finish that out. I'm down to the last episode, so that ought to be.
Oh yeah, that's The Boys. The creators of The Boys, right?
The Boys spinoff. It's absolutely fantastic.
I'm sort of lukewarm on The Boys, but I really like Invincible. That was one I watched recently, and really, really big fan of that because that reminds me of like the old Justice League.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys have seen it, but yeah,
Justice
you know what I mean?
If they were bloody.
Right. If they were bloody and like raunchy.
Yeah. Oh, the second season. I'm actually ahead of it because I actually started reading the books before I even knew the TV series had come out. Like I remember the books that came out like in the 90s and people used to talk about what a great series this was. I never got around to it. And I think like maybe a few years ago, I was on Comixology when that was a thing, and they had Comixology will have featured books that you can get for free. Like you can borrow the books and read the books. So Invincible was one of those, and so I thought, well, I've always liked or heard that Invincible was good, so let me try this out. And so I tried it out, and now I can't stop reading. It's a fantastic series. So the second part of this second season is going to be absolutely bananas, and I can't wait for you to experience that.
I'm hyped. Yeah, that's a book that's a comic I wanted to start reading. Because I absolutely love that show. Love it.
The same guy that wrote The Walking Dead wrote Invincible, so
nice.
You're in for a treat.
I'm not a fan of the show of Walking Dead really, but the comics are incredible.
Right. So,
in my opinion, in my humble opinion.
Fine. A lot of people share that opinion. So, Gunch, how about you start us off with the opening credits?
Mad Max 2, known in America as Road Warrior, right? Because Mad Max 1 didn't really have a wide American release, so Mad Max 2 would not have made sense as a title because a lot of Americans weren't aware of Mad Max 1. Which we were talking about this before we started really getting into the show, but that was why this movie sort of took the Evil Dead 2 approach, where it had that quick sort of recap in the beginning of the first film. So I thought I should rewatch both of these films since we're talking about them today. So I ended up rewatching both of them. And Mad Max 1, you guys have seen Mad Max 1, right?
Yes.
So it's a little slower. And then Mad Max 2 really turns that notch up to like 11. So, I mean, like 11,000.
Right.
They really get crazy.
Almost seems like a normal cop. Almost seems like a normal cop.
Yeah,
movie. Just a little.
It's not
extra.
It's not really apocalyptic. There's news and cops and stuff.
This is like before.
There's still society,
just like on the edge of the apocalypse, and he's a cop and a police person. Right. And I had seen Mad Max 2 before the first one. So when I watched the first one, I was a little bit disappointed, and I still don't think it's like a great movie. And I'm only disappointed because I seen Mad Max 2,
it's not that
right?
good.
And it's like that's high octane action, so I'm expecting that in Mad Max, and I don't see it. So I'm like,
this was a splendid film, and Fury Road. I mean, that's a splendid film, 5-star film.
Absolutely.
I have this theory. Well, okay, I'll get to the theory later. Let's just talk about the movie. So after the fall of civilization, oil became the most precious known resource, and our community sat on a wealth of it in the desert, the community that this film follows, the Australian community, because all of these are set in Australia, produced in Australia. So lately, we've come under daily threat and harassment by a ruthless gang leader known as the Lord Humongous, which is maybe the best villain name I've ever heard in my life. And he's dressed like absolutely ridiculous. It's so good. It's a hockey mask with like a leather studded.
He's a leather daddy.
Let me interject and say that he looks better than he runs. Okay, continue.
Yeah, his run is crazy. I noticed that this time too. I was like, what is he doing?
He can't move very fast. He's not really that. I mean, it doesn't seem like he's that good of a fighter. He's very it's very proto Immortan Joe.
Well, all of them. Yeah. All of the villains after after this one is based on him.
Yeah. Well, and then I didn't know this. I just want to jump into this tiny fun fact, which you guys probably knew this, but the guy who played the main villain of the first one, the toe cutter, is the same guy as Immortan Joe in Fury Road.
Same actor.
Oh, the same actor.
Yeah.
Yeah, same actor.
That's totally awesome.
Same actor.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So anyways, so it's a ruthless gang, which isn't referenced in the movie. I don't think it's ever referenced in the movie, but supposedly canonically they're called the Marauders.
Oh, they mentioned Marauders in the movie. I don't know if they're called Marauders.
They do mention,
but they are called Marauders in the movie.
Marauders, and they're led by Lord Humongous, the Lord Humongous. We know that Humongous and his vicious Marauders will soon wear us down, kill us all, take what they want. Our home has become a prison, and we must escape from it with as much oil as we can carry, because that's the most precious resource. We have a plan with a decent chance of success, thanks to the arrival of a mysterious and resourceful stranger, Max, the Road Warrior. a lone stranger and his dog, of course, because it's a man and his dog, cruising the barren land in this rare 1973 Ford Falcon XB Interceptor. Man that we only know as Max, the road warrior.
You know what's interesting is that as soon as I saw that car, I'm not even a car guy, but I saw it and I started looking for it on the internet because I never heard of the Ford Falcon. And then I found that there's a company that will actually build you a Ford Falcon. I was like,
Nice.
if I was only wealthy, because I'm pretty sure that building a Ford Falcon Interceptor with the seat on the American side is probably it's probably a pretty penny.
Yeah. There's probably something similar for that for like DeLoreans.
Oh
too,
yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Right? There's probably a company that'll build you Back to the Future accurate DeLorean, a Mad Max accurate Interceptor with like the crazy, I don't even know what it's called, the engine that sticks out of the hood.
Yeah.
I'm not a car guy either. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think that's some sort of intake, whatchamacallit, like some turbo intake that sucks in the engine. I think it's called a ram scoop. It sucks in the air to do the oxygen for the engine or whatever.
So let's just call it what it really is. It's the sneezy car from Cars nose.
So this movie, Mad Max 2, was released May 21st in 1982 in America. So like Gunch says, in this country, it was called The Road Warrior. And sometimes you see it billed as Mad Max 2, The Road Warrior. It was produced by Kennedy Miller Production. It grossed over $23 million on a budget of $3 million. I couldn't find the international budget because I'm pretty sure it was released in Australia, but I couldn't find those numbers. So I just have the American and Canadian numbers. To put that in perspective, because this movie came out a while ago, we adjust it for inflation. If it were made today, it would have grossed $72 million and the budget would have been $9 million. So that is magna spectacular. That is what filmmakers want. They want to spend as little money as possible and make as much money as possible. And regardless of how you feel about the movie critically, what the studio is looking for is something that's going to make a lot of money.
Regardless of inflation, that budget is tiny compared to the scope of this film, though. Like, that's crazy. $3 million.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh my goodness.
And that was, at that point, that was the most expensive film ever made in Australia.
Which is
crazy.
It's obviously since been surpassed, even when you factor in inflation.
Right, absolutely.
But like,
you guys know what the top one is as of today, right?
Is it Lord of the Rings?
The top highest produced film in Australia.
Is it Talk to Me Now?
It's Fury Road.
Oh, okay.
It's another Mad Max, of course.
Right.
Did not know that. That's awesome. So this film,
that is awesome.
This film is starring Mel Gibson as Max. You may have seen him in Braveheart, Lethal Weapon, Conspiracy Theory, or Ransom. Now he has been of late kind of ornery, and so we won't talk too much about what he does outside of the film industry, but inside of the film industry as an actor and a director and a producer, he does good work. I'm going to have to admit that. I've always liked the movies that he was in. I think I was introduced to him in Lethal Weapon, and the Lethal Weapon series has always been great. He has a terrible American accent, even though he is technically an American. He was born in New York City. He's an American, but he has a terrible accent, and he couldn't fix it. And I'm sorry to see that he never learned our accent, but still, it's fine.
Yeah, he is a good actor.
Yeah,
he's a good actor. A terrible person.
Yeah,
but a good actor.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So then, of course, we have Bruce Spence, the gyro captain, who is in Revenge of the Sith and The Matrix Revolutions and Dark City. I didn't know that he was in any of those three films.
Same. Yeah, so
that's kind of crazy.
Here's what's fun. I don't remember where he was in Revenge of the Sith. Probably in makeup. A lot of great actors, they go under the makeup in Star Wars. But In The Matrix, allow me to jog your memory. The Matrix Revolutions, he was the train man.
Wow.
He was that guy.
Wow.
He was that
and
guy.
that dude is so gross in that movie. Wow, he's the train man. Down here, I'm God.
Yeah.
That's all I remember.
And here's the thing, right? A lot of times when you see a movie, because I didn't remember him at first, and I'm like, I figure I would look him up on The Matrix because I didn't bother looking up what he looked like in Revenge of the Sith, and I never saw Dark City, so I don't have a reference.
Oh, Dark City, phenomenal
I heard
film.
it's good.
And guaranteed he was in some freaky makeup in Dark City, because it's like Rufus Sewell and then like Kiefer Sutherland and everybody else plays like an absolute creep show 99 in that movie.
But
Rufus Sewell is the only like remotely normal one.
But in The Matrix, he had such a powerful role in that movie. So it's worth noting his performance in that movie. Wes.
He's great. He was great as the gyro captain. It takes a lot to make the comedic side character really enjoyable.
Really good character,
in my opinion.
For sure.
He straddled between annoying and funny at the same time.
yeah. He did the balance well. Yeah.
I'm saying it worked in my opinion.
I mean, absolutely. But
I'm
I'm just annoyed at him as Max is, and it works on that level. Like, I get what you're trying to do, but I want to punch you in the face too.
Right.
His like yellow, he had some like bright yellow
teeth.
tights.
Yeah, he was like,
terrible.
He was wearing
teeth.
like yellow pajamas. That was a remarkable costuming. It was fantastic.
Yes.
He basically came right out of a comic book. He works on so many levels with his costume work.
Oh, completely.
Yes.
He throws snakes at people.
Right.
Comic book character.
That's so crazy. Oh my goodness.
I love it. I love it.
And then of course we have Michael Preston, who plays Papagallo, and his credits are The Getaway and Steel.
Yeah. Most of these actors have mad TV credits. I just tried to put down the film credits, this being a film podcast. So he didn't have a lot of movie credits. As a matter of fact, of all the people on this in this cast who it's really Mel Gibson who had the most film credits, and Bruce Spence. He had a lot of film credits, but pretty much everybody else were TV actors. So, for example, Max Phipps, he played the Toady, and he's been in a couple of films. One is called Nate and Hayes. The other is called Stir, and the other is called Thirst. And I think that was all I could find on him. But for the most part, I want to say he's a functioning television actor.
Nice.
I'm going to presume that's not the Park Chan-wook Korean.
Yeah, that's what I was
film.
wondering too. That's not the Vampire Thirst, is it?
Oh, I have no idea. I think a lot of these films are British films.
I haven't seen that one yet, regrettably.
Yeah.
Then we have Vernon Wells as Wes.
That's
with a Z.
Or
who's in Commando. Weird Science, who I'm willing to bet he played the freaky motorcycle guy in Weird Science.
Probably it's been a while since I watched that.
Probably, but he plays the freaky motorcycle guy in this one. And in Inner Space, wow, that's one that jogs the old memory.
I forgot.
Martin Short.
Vernon Wells is also one of those actors who had a lot of films. Do you remember who he played in Commando?
I don't think I've seen Commando.
Wow. You need to go check that out. You gotta get into the 80s action movies that was dominated by Schwarzenegger, Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Yeah.
And there was another guy who was big and muscular and dominated that genre. But anyway, Commando,
Stallone.
Yeah, Sylvester Stallone. That is definitely the person I was thinking about. So Commando is an action movie starring Schwarzenegger. He's the titular commando. There's one actress that was in the movie that everybody knows, but I can't think of her name right now. But she's everybody likes her. But anyways, besides the point. So Vernon Wells plays the villain in that movie. So he kidnaps the commando's daughter, and the commando has to go and rescue his daughter. It's lots of fighting, lots of explosions. And the thing that people love about this movie are the classic Arnold Schwarzenegger one-liners. They were fantastic in this movie.
Oh, those are I love those every time.
They were awesome.
That dude's unbeatable when it comes to action
he
hero
just
one-liners.
knows how to deliver them. So he delivers these one-liners great. It has Ray Don Chong in it, and like I said, Vernon Wells plays the bad guy, and he plays the guy named, I can't remember his name. It doesn't matter.
He plays a guy named Bennett.
Yeah. Because I wanted to say Matrix, but I remember Matrix was the character that Arnold Schwarzenegger plays. But I encourage you to watch some of these Slock movies.
Hell yeah.
Speaking of action 80s, I don't know if you guys read this, but George Miller apparently turned down the opportunity to direct First Blood in order to make this.
Oh,
nice.
Did you guys know that?
Wow, I didn't know that.
Could you imagine how different that movie would have been?
Really
actually,
different.
I don't know if it would have been that much different.
I mean,
only because he directed Mad Max, and Mad Max has the same type of pacing as First Blood, and I mean, obviously the story would have been slightly different, but I think he would have understood the vibe that the movie was trying to bring, because First Blood is way different from the sequels. So First Blood basically focused on like the treatment of Vietnam veterans, and it was just like gripping, especially for that time. The sentiment of the people, how they felt towards veterans versus how they feel about veterans today. Just me being a veteran myself, I would take I would take the hero worship over being spat upon.
Yeah. Those are my favorite kind of war movies that really get into like the damaging effects of war, like psychologically. You know, that's always so interesting to me.
And also, that movie is based on a book. The book it adheres a little bit close to the book. It's not wildly different, except for one key factor that happened at the end of the book that did not happen at the end of the movie. So, but other than that, it's different, and it's a great film. And I think that Miller would have did a great job had he done it.
Yeah, I think he would have. Yeah, I don't think he would have done bad at all. Okay, I just want to segue into this theory now that I had earlier. Here's my theory, okay? So we watched the first Mad Max. Anybody who's listening, if you watch the first Mad Max, my theory is that somebody watched Mad Max and then they told George Miller, you know, it was a little slow. And he really took that to heart. Really,
I'll show you.
And he was like, I'm never going to make a slow movie again. Every single movie I make is going to be faster paced than the last.
Right.
Yeah. I could see that. Kjell Nilsson. I hope I'm saying that correctly. Kjell Nilsson.
I wish I had looked it up. I failed to look it up. I'm sorry I stuck you with his name.
No, it's all good.
I think it's Norwegian or something like that.
Yeah, it looks Nordic or Swedish maybe. But he played the inimitable Lord Humongous, iconic. He is also known for the pirate movie Stanley. Every Home Should Have One. I've never heard of that.
Yeah, these are
Every Home Should Have One.
I believe these are Australian releases or Australian productions, and he's basically a bodybuilder. That's pretty much what he does. He may have done some modeling. I didn't see a lot of TV credits, so these are the movies that he's known for, and these are the movies that he's done, and he's done. He's like he's that guy that you got because he was big and he did a couple of movies, and then he goes back to being a bodybuilder or whatever. So what's next is Emil Minty. He played the Feral Kid. He's been in The Winds of Jeremiah and Flute Man. He's done some stuff recently, but for the most part, he has not continued acting throughout his career. But he does have a healthy amount of TV credits. But unsettling as the Feral Kid. I'll say that.
Yeah. Truly feral. That was another good job by him to like make, because I personally feel like a lot of kid side characters in 80s movies can get kind of annoying, but I never felt that way about the feral kid.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, it's not every time, but it's a lot of the time.
Right. I don't know if annoying is how I would describe the feral kid. I think unsettling for me is the best description.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. A little scary, but very great. Yeah. Very great. And he had the boomerang, and that made me want to get a boomerang.
Oh, really?
Also. The blade boomerang, just so classic.
Yeah.
Right.
Then we have Virginia Hay, the warrior woman, who is in Rubovich and Farscape. I think I have seen Farscape many, many years ago, but I don't remember anything about it.
So Virginia Hay, the reason I included that credit, so Farscape is a TV show, for those of you who don't know. The reason I included it is because it's one of my favorite shows, and she does such a fantastic job. It's like when you watch Mad Max 2, you don't know whether or not she's a great, even a good actor, because she's not really doing that much. She's doing a job that pretty much anybody could have done. They could have gotten a guy off the street and played that part, and does just a good job. just as good as a job as Virginia Hay did. But and like I said, she wasn't really given much to work with. She wasn't a main character, but in Farscape, she's fantastic.
Farscape, it's like a space thing, right? Like a sci-fi show.
Yeah, Farscape is.
I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I love it. So it's actually produced by the Henson Company, and it's got a lot of realistic looking Muppets on there. It's like everybody, like there's a human character named John Crichton, and he's pretty much the only human on the crew. Virginia Hay is covered in blue makeup. She's
nice.
The best way to describe her is a sex priestess. Not that she's going out having sex with everybody, but everybody wants to do her when she's in their presence. That's the kind of thing. She just gives off that type of vibe.
So is she like the OG, like hot alien lady?
Yeah, she's a bald-headed hot alien lady. That's with blue skin.
Nebula's shaking in her shoes right now.
Right. So, that's the only reason I included that credit. But she looks fantastic in this movie, and I just enjoyed seeing her.
Yeah.
And if Henson's involved, that's an instant sell for me.
That sounds very
with anything.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then, of course, we have Arky Whiteley, who plays the captain's girl, and she is known for The Killing of Angel Street.
Right. And she has a lot of TV credits, but they call her the captain's girl because it's in reference to the gyro captain. So, and he's a funny character.
Oh.
And we're going to get into basically his characters, like in when we talk about our favorite parts of the movie, because he's shifty.
Yeah. So she's the girl with the headband. Am I right?
Yeah, with the weird.
It's like a rope.
It's a.
Or she has a headband.
It's a weird. She also has a weird ponytail. Like it's a ponytail that sticks out on the top of her head, and it's like it's the kind of thing that you see it and you go, you know what? That's bad fashion.
It's like tied up with like a hemp rope type thing. Like it almost looks like a noose knot or something weird like that.
Right. So this movie
I love the costume in this movie.
This movie was directed by George Miller. He's also directed 3,000 Years of Longing. I don't know if you watch movies during the pandemic, but this was one of those movies that he introduced. This is like near the end of the pandemic. So before the movie starts, he sits down in the theater and he's telling the audience how much he appreciates them coming back to the theater. So that was fun at first. And then it got annoying. Like it really got annoying. It's like,
when every single,
please stop doing that.
Started doing that.
And he has a very eclectic filmography. So he's also done Happy Feet, Lorenzo's Oil, The Witches of Eastwick, and Babe, Pig in the City. That film. Most of these he's written. So he's into a lot. His hands are in a lot of different pies.
Yeah.
Have you guys seen Witches of Eastwick?
I haven't.
I have not.
Actually.
I've always wanted to see it.
Freaking
just
great
because
film.
Because of what's his name? The the
Jack
Joker.
Nicholson.
Yeah, Jack Nicholson.
Jack Nicholson. He has a freak out scene in a church where he's like screaming to a bunch of people in a church, and I feel like he's covered with like honey or some sort of sticky slime like substance, and he's screaming and like kicking his feet around, and he's like, did God give us women did God give us women to punish up, or did he just do it on accident or something? Like, it's like this crazy wild scene. It's just like one of the best freakouts in movies. I highly recommend it.
That's pretty awesome.
So it was written by Terry Hayes, George Miller, and Brian Hennant.
That sounds good to me.
Yeah. Has George Miller written every movie he's been a part of?
He's written most of his movies, yeah.
Nice.
Did he write the first Mad Max?
I think so. I think he wrote the first one.
I feel like he wrote Fury Road.
Right.
He definitely wrote Beyond Thunderdome, right?
I didn't check. But he's definitely written most of his movies.
Yeah, he co-wrote.
Oh, he did. Here it is. Yeah. So Hayes wrote Dead Calm, From Hell, Vertical Limit, and Payback.
Oh, nice.
And Miller was, so he was an uncredited writer on 3,000 Years of Longing and Happy Feet and Babe, Pig in the City. He credited on those.
No, he was uncredited just on Mad Max 2. And the rest of
but he did write Mad Max
Right.
1. He did write Babe, Pig in the City, Happy Feet, 3,000 Years of Longing.
Yeah, all of those he got credit for.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like he probably wrote his other movies too. I wouldn't be surprised.
Wrote or co-wrote.
And actually, he's
I don't know, probably co-wrote.
Actually, he's going to get credit for Mad Max, even if he like didn't actually write the movie, like the story or the script, because he wrote the first one, and the first one are based on the characters that he wrote for this one. So because the story is based on his characters, he's always going to get credited for Mad Max 2, no matter who else was on the script or the story.
That's a good point. It's like if producers, it's like sometimes people get producer credits just for taking a lower salary.
Right.
Like if they're actors, even though they don't actually do anything on the production.
Right.
And sometimes they do all sorts of things on the production. So it's like, it's sort of a hard title to differentiate. And then Hennant wrote The Time Guardian, What Price, Valor, and Flashpoint.
Right. Now, he didn't write a lot of stuff, and I don't know these movies, but he was important. He was important to this production.
Yeah,
absolutely. And then the music, and this name made me do a double take when I saw it in the credits. And I think it's made me do a double take in probably Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare as well, is by Brian May. The music is by Brian May. It's not the one from Queen.
It's not the Brian May. It's a Brian May.
It is a Brian May, but it is very confusing anytime his name shows up in the credits. Because I double took when I was watching this last night, and then I was like, that's obviously not Queen Brian May. And then looking at the show notes here and seeing that he also wrote for Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare, I was like, oh, I've also, when I watched that movie, had the same experience. It like was like a flashback. But he also did the music for a movie called Dr. Giggles, Hurricane Smith, and The Blue Lagoon, as well as the other two that we have mentioned. But like, he needs to change his name if he's going to be making music.
No, because he's making music for the film industry. So
yeah, it's true.
It's totally cool.
There is enough separation.
Right. Now, if he was like a rock musician, then he would have probably called himself like Brian the Haymaker May or something like that.
Yeah,
maybe he would just go by Haymaker.
Brian the Haymaker in quotes.
So,
I've never seen any of those other movies aside from Freddy's Dead a long time ago.
Right.
But have you seen any? Have you seen any of the other ones though? Are they any good?
I think I've seen Dr. Giggles. Did not like that. I've seen snippets of The Blue Lagoon. I may have watched the whole movie. I don't know. All I know is that at the time it was notorious for being one of the most horny teenage movies that you could ever watch.
That's all I remember of it, actually. I've never seen it.
That's what I've heard.
That's all I remember of it.
Right. So, and it had a reputation. So I know I've watched some of it, but I don't know if I watched it from beginning to end. But any other ones I'm not all that familiar with. The Dr. Giggles, like I said, I'm pretty sure that I've seen it, but it's such an unforgettable. I mean, it's such a forgettable horror movie. The only thing that's memorable about it is that it stars. I can't remember his name, but I like this show called L.A. Law.
Sorry. The only thing that's memorable about it is it stars a guy who I can't remember his name.
Right. That's exactly right. It was a guy. He was on L.A. Law, and he played a person who was mentally challenged. And because in most work environments, you always had the mentally challenged employee or worker or coworker or whatever. And so he played that character. So when I saw him, and I've only seen him in that. So when I saw him in Dr. Giggles, it's shocking. It's because he's different, right? He's like confident. He's different. He's not mentally retarded. I'm sorry. That's not the right word. He's not mentally, what's the word that people say nowadays? I'm sorry. I'm old and I'm using old language.
Mentally challenged. On the spectrum.
he's
development.
The R word was at one point the correct medical term. Yes,
it was the correct term.
But it got soured.
It got soured because people would make it sour because they would call other people that term. Yeah. And the reason that was correct,
it grew a bad connotation, which is sad, but that's the nature.
And the reason that it was correct because
of our people.
Means like to retard something means to hold back. So you have like flame retardant because it holds back the flame. So it is. Yeah. So that's what they use.
But I don't even, it's like, it's gotten to the point of where I don't even like to use that word to describe things like that.
Yeah. You're afraid to say it because like, wait a minute, is this right?
It's just like, I don't know. It's just,
it feels icky now. Right.
Word.
It feels, they ruined it.
Yeah. It's just such a greasy word.
They ruined the word.
And my brother is on the spectrum, and I've heard it.
Right.
I've heard people call him that, and that maybe soured it for me even more than it would for like a normal person. So that's probably why. But yeah.
So anyways, like when you,
it's still weird when people play characters like that, and then they go back to
doing regular. He's also. And it's like, have you guys seen Darkman?
I haven't.
So
he's the.
I'm thinking of the one with Tim Curry. That's the Shadow.
No, Darkman is the one with I can't remember anybody's
Liam Neeson,
name.
Right?
Liam Neeson, isn't it, right? Thank you.
Qui-Gon Jinn.
Yeah, I was going to say Qui-Gon Jinn. I remember that. Yeah. So the Darkman.
That's his real name.
The Darkman starred Qui-Gon Jinn, and his bad guy, one of the sub bad guys, not like the main bad guy, but the sub bad guy. The sub boss, the minor boss, was Dr. Giggles.
Sub boss. Oh, nice.
Right. So if you remember the big fat dude that was cutting people's fingers off, it's that guy. Anyways, we've gone on a tangent. So we are going to transition to the announcement. And I just want to let people know that because that's it for the opening credits. I want to continue to encourage people to sign up for our newsletter. And if you sign up, you'll have a chance to win a nifty Felix the Cat emoji t-shirt. It's got Felix the Cat and all his emoji glories. I need to work on another t-shirt with a character with emojis on it. Probably not Bugs Bunny. Another public domain character now. Mickey Mouse.
You could do Winnie the Pooh.
Mickey Mouse.
You could do Steamboat. OG Mickey Mouse.
I just can't. Like I can say Mickey Mouse, but I can't call him Mickey Mouse.
Yeah.
They're making a horror like a la like
video
Blood and Honey of the video game, but also like a movie of the Steamboat Willie Mouse.
Right.
And I didn't even really check, but I feel like it's probably by the same people who did Blood and Honey. Probably. Like, let's just take these lovable characters who have recently become public domain.
It's like
just take a big old middle finger up at Disney.
And then what you call it? What's his name? I can't remember anybody's name. Is a British comedian. He has a talk show. And he brought on Mickey Mouse, a guy dressed in Steamboat as Steamboat Willie. And he's like, what are you going to do now, Disney? Huh? What are you going to do now?
That's awesome.
I love it. I love it.
So I just want to let our audience know you have a chance to win this t-shirt. All you have to do is sign up for the newsletter. Go to backlinkcinema.com for details. I'm still working on new blogs, so check, be patient. They're coming out. Also remind people on 10 a.m. on Sunday mornings, I have the Sunday Morning Snap on Twitch where I play Marvel Snap. Have you heard of this game?
Oh yeah. It's a card combat
right,
game,
it's a card
right?
combat game. I didn't think
I love those.
I didn't think I would ever love card combat games. They seem to go on forever. It feels like there's no point, but I've gotten so into Marvel Snap. Not as much as some people some people know like all the technical terms and whatnot. So I'm not that deep into it, but I just enjoy playing it. So and sometimes when you play, it gives you an immense sense of satisfaction. So I'm now playing that on Twitch because I'm going to play it anyway. Might as well see if people are watching me play.
Card combat games always feel they always make me feel smart.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh yeah.
And then they can make you feel dumb. So yeah, I encourage
yeah, well that's the other thing. They always make me feel dumb too. Yeah.
So I would encourage you to go check that out. If you like card combat games, you should really check out Marvel Snap. It's it's so short too. That's another reason I like about it. Like a single match will probably last about 5 minutes. And so it's like if you're waiting in line for what do you call that place? The burrito place that everybody likes. If you're waiting in line at that place and it's a especially long line.
Taco Bell?
No, not Taco Bell. You know I'm not talking about Taco Bell. They
don't
even
Chipotle.
They don't even use real meat at Taco Bell. Yeah, if you're waiting at
Qdoba.
If you're waiting in a Chipotle line, you could probably finish a match before you get to the cash register to order your meal. So yeah, it's a fun game. I'm having a ball. And then now, if you have not heard, like you guys, you already have a podcast on YouTube. So this is not for you. And yours is a video podcast. So it's like when you produce your video, it's already on YouTube. So that's great. But for fellas like me, for ladies and gentlemen, and gender nonconforming people like me, I'm not gender nonconforming, but but people like me.
But you're human.
Yeah, humans.
and
for
we're all
humans,
human.
I didn't want to, because it's like when I said it, it sounded wrong as soon as I said it. For humans like me, who we only have an audio only podcast. My podcast has been audio only from the beginning. Every once in a while, I put a snippet or clip on YouTube or some other social media, but for the most part, you don't actually see me unless I'm on Filmsomniacs or another show that does video podcasts. But so for those of you who don't have a video component, it is now possible for you to upload your RSS feed to YouTube and it'll appear in YouTube and YouTube Music. And so now you have a chance to open up your podcast to a whole new audience. Now on YouTube, what you'll be presented with is a static image of whatever your episode art is. So your episode art or your podcast art. So it depending on how your what do you call it? Your podcast host.
The thumbnail?
Yeah. And in accordance to how your podcast host operates. Now, what was funny is so I have Simplecast. And in Simplecast, I noticed some minor changes. Like the first change was that I saw that there were thumbnails available first episode art available for YouTube. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. YouTube must be gearing up. And then I saw that they did the episode art. And then the next thing that I saw was that it had kind of like a warning. And the warning was like on your RSS feed, you have the option of using your email address or not. And lately, some people have been saying, maybe I don't want to use my email address in my RSS feed, and they take it out. And there's some kind of finagling that your podcast host provider would do to replace your email in order to verify your podcast with podcast providers or whatever. But
sure, we just use we made an email specifically for our pod.
That's exactly what everyone should do. Make an email specifically for your podcast. So what happens is that they put that warning there because YouTube will not work without your email address. It needs an email address in your RSS feed in order to be displayed on YouTube. So there's that. But I looked at it on YouTube. I was like, cool, I have a chance to get a whole new audience. And then YouTube analytics are bananas. So if you put your show on YouTube, you'll get all of that juicy analytics and you can knock yourself out with that.
That's cool. We should look into that.
Yeah.
Spotify does video podcasts.
Yeah.
I always felt like that was kind of weird.
Yeah, nobody's going to be watching a video on Spotify.
Yeah.
I found that out accidentally.
Right.
When I accidentally uploaded a video file instead of an
I
audio
remember I
file.
clicked on that and I was like, oh, it's the video. How strange.
Yeah.
On Spotify.
Yeah, I realized
Spotify
that,
is unique
maybe
in
like
that
2 weeks after I posted
right.
it.
Spotify is unique in that it will display your video podcast. I mean, since you guys already have a video podcast on YouTube, it's really not necessary for you to put your audio on there too. It'll probably cause brand confusion.
Yeah.
But if you decide to start another podcast and you don't want to do the video for that, then that's a great choice. But this is for all us basic bitches who don't want to do a video component.
But Zoe, you look so handsome.
Yeah, no.
You'd be great as video.
Yeah, I'm not chancing it. Anyways. So that's it for the announcements. Let's move over to the next segment where we talk about our favorite parts. All right. So
a lot of contenders for this movie.
Yeah. So let us talk about we're going to try to narrow it down to 5 of our favorite parts of this movie. So how about we either one of you can open this up.
I mean, it's
Wes,
such a basic answer, and it's so basic to the point where I've literally had film professors mention this as an example. But the opening scene after the prologue, which I honestly think the prologue is doing too much, we could do without it completely. I get why they had it in because, you know, as we spoke about, the first one wasn't distributed in the US at the time. But anyway, after the prologue,
they needed it for the time.
Yeah, they needed it for the time. But after the weird prologue with the voiceover, you know, once that's over, the opening scene, you know, with Mad Max running away from Wes, the biker marauder, and he has to get gas, and all that whole bit up until I believe the title card is it after that bit or is it before that bit? Anyway,
I think it's like right in the beginning.
Yeah, so
that there's a title
probably
card.
after that bit. Just that whole bit when he gets up to the point where he gets the music box that sings Happy Birthday, like it's just a brilliant character introduction. It's a brilliant setup because that's the tanker that he has to go back and get. It does everything it needs to do and more. It's an incredibly efficient opening scene, and it has to be mentioned.
Yeah, absolutely. The thing that was remarkable about that scene was that I've always remembered like Max is a badass. Like he's like the most ruthless, the most cunning, the most action hero in because, and this is his movie, so this is somebody you got to watch out for. But what was remarkable was how frightened he was in the beginning. Like this isn't an action hero that I was expecting. This is somebody who's like, oh my God, I'm going to die.
Yeah. Yeah. That's part of what makes him so great is he feels so real.
Right.
He doesn't feel like whatever the like male equivalent of a Mary Sue is.
Right. That's
a definitely a thing. Yeah.
A Gary Stew.
There really is no male equivalent because I feel like audiences will just accept anything that males do up to the impossible. They don't care.
I mean, the Mission Impossible films have shown us that.
Right. And
there's no criticism for male superstars.
And if the guy
sadly,
happens to be muscular, then everything that they do is possible. There's a scene in one of the Fast and Furious movies where The Rock has a cast on his arm, and then he wants to get out of the cast, so he just flexes his arm and gets out of the cast. I'm like, oh my God, that is so impossible.
Oh my God.
He does the impossible, and nobody cares. Nobody called him a Mary Sue in that movie.
That's Fast and Furious, man. Fast and Furious is just ridiculous like that.
So I
don't know if either of you saw The Beekeeper.
No, I wanted to see that
with Jason Statham. I did get to go see that. It wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. That. But there is a part when he kills when he beats up like 30 dudes.
Yeah.
And then as he was walking away, he cracks his knuckles. And it was just like, come on.
That was hilarious.
It's just so pointless, but you kind of love it. You know, it's tropey in a fun way. Yeah.
But that's a great scene. It was fascinating. So, Gunch, name one of.
And I love those like scavenger moments in like Apocalypse where they find something and then they keep it.
Oh yeah,
like the music box. Yeah,
like in Book of Eli, where he finds like a corpse and then he looks at his shoes and he's like, "Oh, nice," and then you see him walking in the guy's shoes. Like those scavenger moments are just, I don't know, they really add a lot of like rich context, context to that world.
Like what a character in an apocalypse is going to choose to bring with them is going to say a lot about that character.
Yeah.
Yes.
And Max chose to, well, whoever the guy got that music box from, obviously that music box is important to him. And then Max sees it and he grabs it and he decides that music box is important to him. And obviously it's a reminder of what he lost, is a reminder of his family. And it made him smile. So he decided to take that with him.
And there's probably no music.
Yeah,
probably.
Not in his world.
I mean, I can't say that about. I can't say that about the later Mad Max films, but there's no there's no diegetic. Music.
Right.
I'm assuming somebody's
movie.
created an instrument, and they're it might be like empty gas cans that they're hitting with a stick. But
I'm pretty sure that some instruments have survived, like some guitars and horns and things like that have survived. But in this movie specifically, there were. I mean, at the very least, you would have drums or something that somebody would beat on. But none of these people were playing music in this movie. Their situation was too dire. They had no time for merriment.
Yeah.
They're being harangued by leather daddies every day.
Yeah.
There's no time for merriment.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. If I was getting chased by huge muscular dudes and assless chaps, I wouldn't really be dedicating any time to instrument learning either. I would just be dedicating my time to keeping the gate closed.
So Gunch, what was one of your favorite parts?
So I really liked that scene where Wes crashes the motorcycle and he flies off of it. And it's like this crazy scene where he's just flying through the air and spinning. But then I found out that was actually near fatal for the stuntman. And he broke his leg and he almost died doing it. And then George Miller decided to keep it in the movie.
Right.
And it's I just have such a mixed feeling about that. I don't know. It was such a good scene, but at what cost? And I mean, George Miller is a doctor. He was a doctor before he was a director, if you guys knew.
That's crazy. I didn't know that.
So he always talks about how safety is the top priority, but I don't know, this movie, there's a lot of moments where it didn't feel super safe. I liked the part where Mel Gibson's character Mad Max was in the helicopter,
right? And
he was almost dead, and the gyro captain was like, just stay calm, buddy, or something like that. Yeah. And then he winks and it's slow motion. And I always like those kinds of scenes where it's very obviously could not have been done with a green, or it wasn't done with a green screen. It could have been done by a green screen at that time. But yeah, I guess they didn't do that with a green screen either.
Right.
They actually had Mel Gibson lay out on a plank sticking out of a helicopter, and that's how they shot that. So that does not feel safe to me.
Oh, that's crazy.
Those are my first initial reactions, but I don't know if they're going to make it into the top 5 because they're kind of unethical. So yeah, I don't know.
Well,
that's intense.
One of my favorite things about the movie were the costumes and the cars. That is the most impactful thing about this movie for me, and how it's influenced other films. When people think of a post-apocalyptic films, one of the things that they think of is the Road Warrior. They got this they may not have been able to find instruments, but they damn sure found an American football locker room, because everybody was wearing American football gear. They're in Australia, so where they found American football protective gear is...
I know where they found it. It was right across from the leather shop.
That's where they found it.
Shop that they also raided.
I mean, and
then down the road there must have been a junkyard or something that they got bits of metal from.
And then they found the football gear in different colors. So just absolutely fascinating. I love the use of costumes in this movie, and the cars were absolutely fantastic. It's that Interceptor car was fantastic. The humongous, this weird car was awesome. Even the car that what's his name? That the leader of the oil people, he was Papa Papadopoulos.
Yeah, it was like
Papagallo.
So
it was like a rocket car.
It was like
or something weird.
His was more like
a dragster,
like an old style race car, like one of the early race cars.
Yeah.
So it was built on that body. So all of these cars were just fantastic, and it really gave you that post-apocalyptic feel to it. So I really enjoyed those things.
And I loved the gate.
Yeah.
The gate to the oil town was like a bus that they welded metal plates to, and then they would drive it out of the way or back in, and that's how they opened and closed the gate. It's just so rich.
Had the wheelchair dude where he had a incredible contraption that he could move around in. So that was fantastic. It's like, we don't have a wheelchair for you, but we're going to put this on this crane and we're just going to kind of wheel you around in this crane contraption that we have for you. So a lot of lived in stuff happening in this movie. So that was fantastic.
Disability feels like a major theme in these movies. I feel like there's like at least 2 characters who are physically disabled in every Mad Max movie.
Because there's Max with his leg.
Yeah, he
had the leg brace.
Right. He apparently got that damaged in the previous movie.
In the first movie, yeah.
Right. He also had there's also the guy that got his fingers cut, so he became disabled during the film.
Well, yeah,
that happens. That happens quite frequently in these movies. People,
and the 2 big ones from the first one were people who got disabled in the film. The dude who like had the stoma or whatever it's called, and then the dude who was on crutches.
Right, and obviously there's the feral kid who's also mentally challenged. I feel so. I was like,
well, but then it's revealed at the end that the narrator was the feral kid all along. That was a pretty good reveal. So I wasn't actually expecting that.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. And here's the thing. I think that he's probably on the spectrum somewhere as not what you call it. I'm trying to think of the word. I had the word before we started this podcast, and now the words are gone. I should have wrote it down somewhere.
Well, if you're in a future where there's no education and you're never taught how to talk, I mean,
you know how to talk. You may not learn how to read, but nobody has to teach a child how to talk. They just learn how to talk by imitating the people who are talking.
Did he grow up in that town, though? It's never really specified. Maybe he was out in the wastes and he didn't have any parents or anything. And
definitely a possibility.
Wolves or whatever.
So his education may have been delayed because he did a lot of grunting and he knew what a wolf sounded like. So that's a great point. They just probably found him wandering the wasteland and he talked to nobody. And because he's already ferocious, he's just able to survive. And then his speech was just basically later developed in him since he had nobody to talk to. You know what? You are putting forth an idea for a backstory of the feral kid. That's what's really going on. We need
about the feral kid.
We need a prequel.
What's the theory?
The theory of
prequel
is that the feral kid is Max in Fury Road, and that's how it like.
Oh yeah,
so it's like
you know what? I've actually heard that he's Tom Hardy's Max.
That he's Tom Hardy's Max.
The problem is it doesn't actually fit the narrative at the end. I
don't think it does
Max
either, 2. But it's kind of fun to think about.
I think it was like canonically like no, it's not because of like some comic books or something. I feel like I read. I didn't read the comics, but I read that about that.
Yeah.
Also from
it's still a good theory, though.
From how
I still love
from
that.
how you get it from the feral kid at the end of this movie is that they found the place that they were looking for, and apparently they didn't have any more problems. They became a great civilization.
Paradise.
So it's like once they became a great civilization or a great tribe, as he called it, then they were not. It was like there was no threat that they had to worry about. So it's not like they would go back to being like Max wouldn't go and start this great civilization and then go back to being threatened by marauders again, right? As in
unless
Fury
the great
Road.
civilization became the Morton Joe place.
That would be insane.
I feel like this is something
over time it corrupted.
The events in Fury Road could have happened after Mad Max 2, or they could have happened like between Mad Max 2 and Beyond and Thunderdome, or after Thunderdome. Either one of those is acceptable. I think.
Yeah. It feels like it almost sort of feels like a reboot.
Yeah,
kind of.
absolutely.
Each movie in a weird way feels like a
Yeah,
reboot.
yeah.
That's true. Yeah, that's
The
true.
Evil Dead comparison is very apt because each one of those movies, not a single one of those feels really related to the other one, other than the Evil Dead aspect. But every single one of those films feels like its own film, and every single one of the Mad Max films has its own identity as well. Like it's a very apt comparison, I think.
Evil Dead Rise was a completely different movie than any of the other Evil Deads, but I still loved it. And it still was very distinctly an Evil Dead movie.
Absolutely.
But just a completely different concept.
Army of Darkness was like, fuck it, we're going back in time.
Yeah. One of those rare cases where they make just like the most outrageous story decisions they possibly could, and it still works.
Right. So much fun, yeah.
We know this is the Evil Dead movie.
The little Bruce Campbell who like jumps into his like, did he jump into his butt?
The itty bitty Bruce
Campbell? Or did he jump into his mouth? There's like little Bruce Campbell. Yeah. There's little Ash clones or something. I don't know. Anyway, sorry.
No, I
just weirdness on that movie.
I just had a cramp. Yes. It's not you. It's a cramp. Anyways. Wes, tell me another one of your favorite parts.
I gotta talk on the costumes too, because they are crazy. They really stepped it up from the first film, because like the first film is almost like a normal cop film.
Right.
Yeah, it doesn't really feel. The only thing that feels post-apocalyptic is they have like toys nailed to their doors.
Yeah, there's like a little bit of extra weirdness, but like for the most part, it's like it's kind of like a regular cop film, you know.
Yeah.
And then you get the Mad Max 2, and you have the leather daddies with football gear attacking the people wearing like old hockey equipment. It's just like it's great. It's fantastic. It's so funny. Like I could not stop laughing at the assless chaps every time I saw a bit of cheek. I was like,
there were so many.
Yeah.
The kid.
Why were there so many?
The kid did not have to be assless. That's all I'm going to say about that.
They're all
that was taking it too far.
That was taking it too far. It's like I feel like he had. It was like he was wearing diapers and he had not yet been trained, had not yet been potty trained. So that was when was unnerving to me. It's like this kid is like
hang out so he can just
this kid is like 7 years old and he doesn't know how to use a potty. He's still wearing diapers. That's not right.
There's a scene in the first one where a dude is running away from a crash. And the guy looks at him through like the scope of his gun, and he's just assless, or his ass is out for some reason as he's running away.
George Miller must really like
what happened. Yeah, I guess George Miller's an ass man.
That's exactly right.
Just like Walt Disney.
Gunch, what's one of yours?
Well, I really liked the introduction to the gyro captain. The whole thing with the snake.
Yes, the snake
is so funny. Put the snake down. Nice and gentle. I trained that snake. I'm going to eat it. And then when he's flying, he like throws the snake. He takes the snake and throws it down into one of the cars, and the car crashes. And just the dude and his snake. It was so funny.
Amazing.
So funny. Like, I love every scene with that weird ass dude in it. The slow motion scene where he's saving Max. It's all so funny. It's so good. And and his costuming, ridiculous. Like bright yellow pajamas, like a pink scarf, and pink. They looked like bunny slippers or something. There was some kind of slipper.
On. He wasn't wearing regular shoes.
Yeah.
Just the silliest looking shit. But then he had goggles with like a sun shield on them and like a pilot's cap. So it was a real nice mix of, this is what I found. This is all I found.
Right, absolutely.
I'm a terrible, I don't have any marketable skills for scavenging. So these clothes are the only thing I found in a dumpster somewhere.
I feel like maybe
It's
somebody
really good.
stole his clothes. This is why he spends most of his life underground, waiting for somebody to try to steal his gyrocopter or the fuel from his gyrocopter. The fact that he was able to stay underground is remarkable.
Yeah, just trained a snake to bite people so that he wouldn't even have to get up and get out of the ground.
I imagine.
But then Max grabs him, so now he has to do Plan B. You got the sense that he never had to do that before.
Right. I imagine that you don't have to train a snake to bite.
Yeah, what does training a snake mean? I doubt that he actually trained that snake.
But yeah, that
so good.
I also had that as like when Max finds the gyro captain. That's definitely one of my favorite scenes in the movie.
Yeah,
that's pretty. And I like how it established the characters of Max and being resourceful, like setting a booby trap on his car and having like a knife under his car just in case he was forced to undo the booby trap. And like the gyro captain says that, resourceful and quick man such as yourself might hide a knife under there. I'd hate to pin your head to the car. And it's like, I hated how
he calls him on it.
Right. And I hated how Max treated him. Like he kind of treated him like crap, but like after they, after they kind of bargained for the gyro man not to be killed by Max, like, so Max treated him real bad. And I almost felt sorry for them, but it's like, I have to think back to like him booby trapping Max in the first place so that I don't feel so bad for him. So he does a very good job at being both annoying and then like having a kind of compassion for him at the same time. So he really straddled that line. And then later on in the movie, there's a point where he wants to be Max's partner. Like we can be partners. And then he gets part of he's in that camp in the fuel camp. And then he meets this girl and then he almost sneaks off with the girl. Like he convinces the girl to sneak off. And then the girl won't leave. And so after that, Max has fulfilled what he said he was going to fulfill. So he gets in his car and he leaves. And now the gyro captain is like, well, come back. We're a team. But it's like, you were just about to leave. You shifty son of a bitch.
Right.
You were just about to leave. Why are you getting mad at Max for leaving? You almost left. So I love the shiftiness and the constant changes. Like he doesn't know what he wants to be. Right.
Right.
He hasn't fully decided.
The only reason he said he wanted to be partners was probably because he knew that Max was his only chance of surviving.
Yeah, I believe so.
Because he was this very clearly badass dude, and Gyro Captain just isn't.
Right. Gyro Captain, I am closer to the Gyro Captain in the post-apocalyptic scenario. Actually, I'm probably, to be totally honest, I'm closer to the girl that he was attracted to. I'm closer to her. Like
I cannot believe she was about to run away with that dude. Right. That is like the nastiest looking dude in a movie full of just gross looking people.
Beggars can't be choosers. And he's probably
he can fly.
He can fly. He's probably the cleanest one of all the people that was there. Like she can't do Papadopoulos or whatever his name is because he's the leader, obviously, and so much older than she is, and she can't really relate to him. And then there's the dude that had to be pushed around in this crane, so she really wasn't interested in that dude. And there were a couple.
Then there's the old boy. Nothing there but sunshine, fresh water, and nothing to do but breed.
Clearly crazy. He's clearly crazy. So her options were.
That was like the grandpa from Lost Boys. So, it's like that energy.
Her options were severely limited. So he's just as good as anybody. So once again, I forgot whose turn it is.
I think
Wes. It's Wes's turn.
I think it's you, or maybe it's Wes.
Because Gyro Captain is the same as yours. So Wes, go ahead. It's your turn.
The finale car chase sequence. I don't know how long it is. It feels so long, but like not in a bad way. Like an amazing way. That they kept the tension raising that long. And then the results of it when it is revealed that Max has been a decoy this whole time and that tanker's filled up with dirt. Oh my goodness, it's so satisfying. It's a classic bait and switch. It's executed so well. There's so many moving pieces to that entire sequence. I mean, and you see a lot of it. A lot of that sequence, I feel like, is like precursor to what he was doing, what George Miller was doing in Fury Road, because that had to have been one of the craziest car chase sequences of the time. Back in the 80s, like crazy car chase sequence. So many moving parts, so many crazy stunts happening, crazy shots. Just it's brilliant. It's amazing. It's so intense, and it gets my heart racing every time. And it's one of the reasons why Mad Max 2 is my favorite in the whole series. I think it's so cool.
You don't see that kind of action in Marvel movies, even.
No.
Yeah. There's not a lot of
it's just so
car
real.
chases or martial arts in Marvel movies. That is correct. They find their thrills elsewhere.
Yeah. They fly around and shoot lightning.
They fly around, they shoot lightning. They take gods by the legs and slam them on the ground over and over again. And then they say puny gods. And then you walk away chuckling because that is definitely funny. So, and then in a subsequent film, we see the Hulk doing the same thing to Thor, and then Loki going, "See how you like it." And that's a wonderful callback. But so that I love the way that they're able to, that's actually another one of my favorite parts too. I love the way they're able to keep the tension going for that incredibly long scene, because one of the things about it is that in order to do a long action sequence like that, you can't be looking at the same thing, or the action itself will be boring. It kind of reminds me of like the Kill Bill series. Like you had these long action sequences, but you just couldn't do a long action sequence without changing things up. So like in the Kill Bill sequences, I think it goes like from black and white, and then it'll go to animation, and then it'll go to like some kind of sepia tone during the action. So they found ways visually to keep the action interesting. And then in this movie, what they did was that they just had different things. Like I feel like the Marauders had like contingency plans on how to deal with a tractor trailer. And so when they're chasing the tractor trailer, it's like a succession of contingency plans that they're trying to do in order to get the tractor to stop and to go and capture the vehicle. And the plan that, because it's revealed at the end that the tractor was a decoy, it's just fantastic how well that plan worked. That with everybody chasing the tractor and ignoring everybody else. So in that way, like Humongous had said, like, just leave the oil refinery and go out into the desert, and we'll leave you alone. We won't, we'll give you safe passage. And he's obviously lying. He's never convincing. He never convinced me, but
no,
but I feel like it's like one of the guys says, as soon as we leave here, that he's going to kill us all. And that's exactly what he wanted to do. But because the people left with the tanker, he's basically has no choice. But actually, he does have a choice. He could have just let them go because he still has an entire
and they blew up the refinery.
Right, but he didn't know that.
No, they blew it up though.
Right.
Well, yeah, he didn't know that.
So he could have just stayed at the oil refinery and let them go. But because he's kind of a dickhead, he chases the tanker.
A bunch of them went into the oil refinery. He probably was like, "Oh, secure the oil refinery, and then we're gonna go get the rest." Because he's just he's a greedy.
Right. That's what it was. He was greedy, and that's why he lost. Because he had all the oil that he would ever need. He had an oil refinery. He didn't need that little tanker, the tanker truck. But anyways, so he had several contingency plans, and you see him, or you see the Marauders, like in succession, like as I said before, lay out their plans in order to stop it, and then the counterattacks that you had by the people that were on the tanker. So that was all fantastic. It was very well played out. It was, I think that George Miller really knew what he was doing. The editors really knew what they were doing when they put this sequence together, because they knew it was long. They knew that
he was one of the big editors for this movie.
Nice.
I think it was the same for a lot of the Mad Max movies.
Yeah.
I know for Fury Road, he was like a big editor, maybe the lead editor on it too. But he had said for Fury Road how he was able to get it so high octane and so exciting. He had said his method was that he always keeps the subject in the same area of the frame, like right in the center of it. And you can really see him start to develop that in this movie. Because there's such a long action sequence in the end that you just can't look away from.
Right.
Because it just is constantly drawing your attention.
Right.
And there are definitely boring action sequences. I mean, I've seen them.
Yeah, absolutely.
But this movie totally excels with that.
Right. Yeah. It's basically a combination of tension and release that you have to do during the sequence that keeps the interests of the audience. So Yep.
And there's a really subtle way of guiding the viewer's eyes across the screen.
Right.
The scene before will lead to the scene after visually and so on and so forth.
Right. That could have
just a lot of pre-planning.
Confusing.
Yeah.
All right. So I'll go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt anybody.
That was going to be my big one.
Right.
I mean, that reveal truly is
so satisfying.
I mean, that's number one for me.
So satisfying. Oh,
so good.
A little smirk on his face as he feels the dirt.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good.
And did Mad Max know?
No.
About that?
He did not know.
Did anybody know?
The only person that knew was probably everybody else but Mad Max. I think they knew because obviously the people in the bus knew because that's where the fuel was kept. The people who loaded the bus knew, and that was probably most of them. So I think the only person that didn't know was Mad Max, the feral kid, and that's it. And the people that were...
You think the people on the truck knew?
I think they knew. I think that they considered it a noble sacrifice. I think that they knew. It's especially the I forgot his name. I didn't write it down. But the special needs guy, the guy that didn't have any legs, he was the gunner for the rear of the trailer, and he was adamant that he did not want to ride on the school bus. So I think he knew. So if he knew, then the warrior woman knew. She had to have known. So I could see her noble sacrifice. One of the things that about her sidetracking a little bit is that so when she came to accept Max at that he was not like a bad guy, like she really clocked him as one of the bad guys, like one of the marauders.
It's because he wore all black.
Well, yeah, that.
The marauders wore all black, and the gas town people
they wore all black,
wore
and
white.
the people inside wore white and beach colored. So it's the bad guys and the good guys are very easy to differentiate.
It's so Western in that way.
It's
a very Western style.
The black hats and the white hats.
Truly.
Yeah.
So
truly.
But then after she accepted him, she kind of gave him the googly eyes. Like she was looking at him like, you can get it, right?
There was a little something cooking.
Right. I appreciated that. So that's just a little bit of a tangent, but I don't think he knew.
I always interpreted that smirk he gives as he feels the dirt as like his admiration of how cunning their plan was.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
He's a character that has gotten by, by being a badass, but mostly because he's a cunning badass. Like he's not just a badass because, by then he probably would have been killed, in a fight somewhere. But he's also like really smart and cunning and resourceful. And like, I don't know, he sees that dirt and he's just like, wow, these people. Immediate respect.
Yeah. Absolutely. He's threatening people with an empty gun. He's booby trapped his car. He's got
a gun or a knife by the booby trap.
He's got an attack dog. So he definitely gets by on being as cunning as possible.
I just think he like immediately respected these people so much.
Right.
When he sees that dirt pouring out of the tanker, he's just like, these geniuses. Oh
right. So that's also one of my favorite parts. I'm going to skip that and I'm going to go to a line that he says. I think he says the same line in Beyond Thunderdome, but the line when the community is trying to figure out what they're going to do about how to get this tanker out. And he says, you want to get out of here? You come to me. And and I picked that because that's one of the things that I just remember about this film. Like when he finds that the tanker is empty, I remember that part. And I remember when he says that. So and that's why I picked that. But he has very few lines in this movie. And I think that was particularly impactful.
Yeah, I was reading about that in the trivia. He only has 16 lines of dialogue in the whole movie.
And two of them are the
main
same
character. Yeah, two of them are. I only came for the gasoline.
That's hilarious.
The true like silent hero.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, he's so silent he couldn't even name his dog. So the dog used
Yeah, the dog's name
The dog's name is
is
Dog.
Dog.
just named
right?
Dog.
Yeah, his name is Dog.
It's very fallout of him.
Apparently that dog was like a local pound dog, and they actually just like found him and trained him to perform in this film.
Yeah.
The poor guy, the engine noises upset him so much, and he even like relieved himself in the car because of the sounds of the engines. So they actually fitted him with like these special earplugs. But it ends really happily, because even though he had to deal with all the scary engine noises, he ended up getting adopted by one of the camera operators, which relatable. If I was a camera operator on this film, I probably would have adopted that dog too, because he is so cute.
He's such a cute dog. And such a good actor too.
He looks so fuzzy and soft.
I appreciate that they went with a mixed breed dog instead of going with like a pure breed like they do in so many of these movies. So that was pretty awesome. It was like, let's get a dog that's really rough. Like it really had
and just rescuing a dog in general, as opposed to like buying a like you said, a pure breed dog. I mean, it's just
in the apocalypse, all your options are going to be rescues.
Yeah, basically. Right.
Yeah.
I read something, just going off of that, I read something that the actor who played the gyro captain, the dog, was really fond of him. So all the scenes where they were fighting, he had to kind of play with the dog a little bit and get the dog to look like it was fighting. The dog was fighting him, and then they edited in some growls.
Right.
Edited it so it looked like it.
Yeah.
Well, the dog really liked him.
I don't think they can have a dog in a movie actually attack people. So I think that whenever you see a dog in a movie that looks like it's attacking it, they're really just playing, and then they have to add the growls later.
Back then, I'm not so sure.
Right.
There was definitely a point in movies where they had a dog actually attack people.
George Miller just, had somebody get their throat bit off by the dog. We'll use that one. Sorry that happened, but we're going to use that shot.
Right.
I mean, I wouldn't put it past him, at least back then.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, so I think we're on. I don't know how many of our favorite parts that we've done. Do you have any more, Wes?
I actually just looked at my notes, and I have spoken on all of my favorite parts.
How about you,
that I wrote down?
Yeah. I mean, same here. Okay, awesome. Honestly, I think my number one is probably the whole intro to the gyro captain.
Yeah.
But that's a close second would be that final reveal in car chase. Just so good.
Do you think it's pretty funny when he is coming back and he runs into the gyro captain again, and he's dragging the like wood plank behind him?
Yeah.
And,
the big piece of
and the gyro captain realizes that his gun's been empty the whole time, and he's like, "Oh, that's been empty the whole time." And he's like, "How do I know that one's not a dud?" And he's like, "Well, why don't we find out?" And he's like, "Okay, cool."
Yeah.
I think he calls him.
It's cool with partners. Remember, we're partners.
I think the gyro captain said that he was dishonest for using a gun.
Yeah, that's dishonest. That's
right.
Yeah, right. Yeah, real rich coming from the gyro captain.
Right.
So good.
So the only thing that I'll add is in the final battle. It's like, because I've been around a couple of cars and trucks. So there's a scene where the kid, he's in the back part of the truck, and he gets into the truck, and he gets in by holding on to the exhaust pipe. He would have burnt himself up fiercely had he done that. So I made a mental note of that, and then I wrote it down. And then when he's on the hood would have been extremely hot. So I'm not sure about that. But
yeah.
But that's just.
Well, actually, this movie was cold. The set was supposed to be really cold.
I don't care how cold it is, though. What I'm saying is that the exhaust pipe was like 180 degrees.
That's true.
Contact with hot metal. Yeah.
Cold wouldn't have made any difference. Yeah, in fact, it probably would have made it hurt worse.
Right. Yeah, it would have hurt a lot. But
your ice cold hands on a hot stove type feeling.
So, ladies and gentlemen, that's it for our favorite parts. We're going to transfer to the trivia. And you've heard some of our trivia, so the stuff that
I sort of got into it a little bit.
So the stuff that we had gone over, we just kind of skip over those. Like we had already mentioned that Mel Gibson only had 16 lines of dialogue, but we did not talk about. I don't think we talked too much about dogs. So go ahead, Wes. Tell us about the dog in the film. We talked a little bit about it. No, actually, you did. The only thing we didn't say.
Well, we talked about the
that.
special.
We talked about
that
the dog was named Dog, and he was rescued from a pound, and so on and so forth. So, all of that we talked about earlier about the dog. We went over, and then we talked about the stunt, but I'm gonna reiterate this.
I had offhandedly mentioned it. Sorry, but it is interesting though.
Yeah, I want to reemphasize this one. So in this particular piece of trivia, there's one of the spectacular stunts in the film in which one of the motorcycle riding raiders hits a car and flies off the bike, smashes his legs against the car, and cartwheels through the air towards the camera. Was actually a genuine near fatal accident. As mentioned earlier, the stuntman was supposed to just fly over the car without hitting it, but he survived, but his leg was broken badly. They don't tell us if his leg was healed, but it was broken at that point. The moment looked so dramatic that it was kept in the film. Because of course it was. It was the 1970s. What are they going to do? It's like, we're not going to waste this footage.
Wasn't that character Wes?
I don't remember if that was supposed to be Wes or
Maybe not. I thought it was the pink mohawk guy.
Well, to be fair, a lot of them had different color mohawks. In a post-apocalyptic world, they found gel for the kid because the feral kid's hair was highly teased, and then they found a whole bunch of what do they call it? Hair color. They found that because
I don't know how they found dye.
Yeah, hair dye
crazy.
because all of the bad guys had different color hair, and then they obviously found water somewhere. So
there's a hair salon right next to the American Sports Emporium and the Leather Daddy.
Right.
They in the junkyard.
It was all in one trip.
So, but this is the next one is not something that we had gone over. So Gunch, tell us about this one.
So Humongous, the Humongous, Lord the Humongous was originally supposed to be Jim Goose from the first one. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
And the production decided against this officially, but they left a few hints, such as like the horrid burns behind Humongous's mask and his hair. His hair was totally all burned up and gross looking. And then the Raiders' use of police vehicles, which was interesting because I noticed that right away too. And his own use of a similar weapon to the MFP's standard sidearm. He had that sort of interesting gun.
Yeah.
That like revolver with a scope. And I guess the symbol was like a piece of Nazi memorabilia, supposedly.
Oh.
That's the legend.
I did
that they used.
I did not know that.
It's kind of an interesting little commentary on that, I guess.
That is interesting. I didn't know that. That is really interesting. So also one of the factors which led them to using the location that they were using was that it predicted that there would be no rainfall at all during the shoot. But as we spoke before we got into talking about the movie, when you're working on a set, nothing ever goes right. So it actually did end up raining, and it's actually bad luck to mention rain on set. Like, you're not supposed to mention rain.
I did not know that.
Yeah. Yep. It is.
It's considered bad luck.
Right.
Yep.
So they had to. It rained at their location for the first time in over 4 years. There was rain there, and so they had to shut down production for over a week.
Wow.
Yeah.
First time in 4 years, and it just so happens to happen on
right.
Yeah,
clouds move.
I think like 7 out of 10 sets I've ever been on has had rain, like a really bad rain.
Yeah, I would say
that has shut things down.
7. Every outdoor set I think I've been on has had rain.
Yeah, it just happens every time.
Right.
It is ridiculous.
And then they used some of the rain footage in the montage. Did you notice that?
It was really rich too when they used that. So good. I'm glad it rained because that was awesome.
Well, here's the thing: it's like, when did it rain? Because the marauders are dry the whole time. The people in the camp were dry the whole time. But sometime during the night, it rained, and you had Humongous, like he's doing his best wrestling promo ever during the montage.
Absolutely.
It's like I could
They're like burning rubber, like doing donuts in the rain.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
so good.
I can
so
see
good.
Humongous like speaking on the speakers, like threatening the people in the oil campus, like, "Ooh yeah, I'm coming to get you. You disobeyed me, yeah, but I'm coming. Me and my marauders, we're gonna take you out. Ooh yeah." I saw it all in the montage.
Amazing.
I got you for 10 minutes. 10 minutes of playtime.
All right.
I love
the tanker roll stunt at the end of the chase was deemed so dangerous that the stunt driver was not allowed to eat any food for 12 hours before the shoot.
Wow.
In a likely event that he could be rushed to surgery. So what they were doing was that, like, if you ever went to, like, if you had to do surgery or if you have to do certain medical procedures, they'll tell you to fast for like 12 hours before you go to the hospital or something like that. I've had to do that a couple of times. So I guess George Miller, being a doctor, was like, don't eat tonight. We're going to do a stunt tomorrow and we might have to rush you to the hospital.
That's crazy.
Imagine that. Imagine signing up to do a stunt that's like, yeah, pretty much a near guarantee you're going to be rushed into surgery after this. Jesus.
I think he was just being cautious. He's got that. That was the doctor, and I'm wanting him to be cautious.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. And this was the most expensive set ever constructed for an Australian film. The desert compound built in the desert of Broken Hill. That's the New South Wales, Australia. That was the oil town, I take it. The production also boasted the largest explosion ever created for an Australian film, which destroyed that set.
Yeah.
And George had said that they had to close the mines for that explosion of that compound. And George had said, I felt the shock waves of it.
The explosion is
really
amazing.
big.
Yeah, that was a spectacular explosion. It's one of the best explosions caught on cinema. It was beautifully shot. You really felt how gigantic it was.
Yeah. It's incredible. When the tires start flying out, that's my favorite part.
Oh my God.
Amazing.
Yeah, all the junk starts flying out.
Yeah.
Just nuts.
Incredible.
They don't do it like anymore, man.
I know, it's all CGI explosions now.
You gotta be safe now. Gotta be safe.
You know what? I say that, and then I feel like an asshole every time I say it. Why aren't movie people in danger anymore? Right. They should go back.
Not only that, but it's also the firearms because of on the set of Rust because of that whole thing. Mm-hmm. And now people are making commitments to. It's like the CGI is at a level now, and they're cheap enough now where you don't need actual, firearm. Well, you don't need actual fire, right? You don't need actual gunfire because, like, somebody could mess up and put an actual round in the weapon and accidentally kill someone.
And we haven't forgotten, Alec Baldwin. We haven't forgotten that you prestiged a guy on set,
right?
And we'll never forget, you motherfucker. We'll never forget.
Right, absolutely.
I mean, that's crazy that explosion destroyed. I mean, like, obviously it destroyed the set. It was massive, but like, they only had like one shot at that, right? You can't mess up that shit.
You can't.
Got to make sure the film's in the magazine. But like,
imagine the lens cap was off or the lens cap was on.
Goodness. Or like it was out of focus like the entire time.
That'll cost you your job. That the DP on that would
100%
would never work again.
Absolutely. But
right.
After the movie was finished, I guess all the cars were supposed to be destroyed, including the black Interceptor. But somebody thought that the Interceptor was too good to lose, so they saved it from the Crusher. And when the sequel, absolutely, like, say it's a piece of history. But when the sequel was in its planning stage, someone found out that the Interceptor had somehow survived, so they tracked it down and bought it back.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. For Thunderdome.
No. Mad Max.
It
was introduced in Mad Max, and they brought it back for Mad Max.
And they brought it back for the.
Oh, they brought it back
Road
for
Warrior.
2.
Yeah. And then they destroyed it in this movie.
Yeah. I mean,
Amir, is his name Emil Minty?
Yeah.
He saved his boomerang. He still has.
Oh
that
my
boomerang.
God, that's so awesome!
And I guess Mel Gibson gave him that boomerang.
I love that. That's amazing.
So he still has that. It's in his office. Apparently.
That's pretty awesome.
Prized possession.
And Mel Gibson taught him how to throw it.
Yeah.
That's brilliant.
Mel Gibson taught the kid how to throw a boomerang and taught the kid how to headbutt people for movies.
I killed
That's
a marauder
little
lady
bonus
with this
for you.
boomerang.
That's the thing about the boomerang. No, I think that was a dude. Pretty sure that was a dude.
My bad. Sorry, marauder.
No, the lady got killed by the boomerang, but then the dude got his
his fingers chopped off. Yeah.
Yeah, Wes is.
No, that's what I'm saying. I think that was a dude. I don't think that was a lady.
With the boomerang and
the
oh
dude,
yeah, you know what it was? His
whole chest was out. They wouldn't.
You're right. You're right. You're right.
They wouldn't do that for a lady.
It was a very femme presenting man.
Guess because
you know what?
Yeah.
It's the apocalypse. Maybe they don't even have pronouns anymore. Maybe it's all just people.
I mean, it might be, but also Wes was super gay, right? So
absolutely.
Oh my god,
Lord Humongous is very gay too.
Yeah, you could tell. Humongous was coding gay when he started to run. It was like, I get it. Yeah, he's actually a gay man, and
I mean, he's like a leather daddy, and these are all his his disciples. What do they call it? I don't know S&M culture, but what do they call it when like a daddy has followers or his little puppies or whatever? I don't know.
No, that's like a furry thing, but it is S&M style, right?
Yeah,
like they have like S&M style
dog. The dom, and they're all the subs or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is entourages.
Yeah, but like so Wes definitely kept his significant other close. Like, he's not going anywhere without it. So, and then, when the feral kid killed, his main squeeze, Wes kind of went crazy. He had to spend a little bit of time on punishment in front of the car, right?
He was strapped to the top.
Yeah, he had to be strapped to the top like all the other prisoners. So yeah, absolutely.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
So,
that's so good.
Moving right along, according to George Miller, it was Mel Gibson's idea to make Max look as rough and ragged as he did. So before filming began, he cut his own hair. So I'm trying to figure this out. So did he cut his hair himself because he knew it would look messed up? I think that's the idea. And
probably,
he cut his eyebrows.
Because like in the world of the film, there's like no hair cutters or anything. So everybody's hair has to look crazy.
And not only that, but even if they were barbers, Max is not someone who would trust barbers. So he'd definitely be the type that would cut his own hair and butcher it because he doesn't actually care. He's doing it for tactical reasons. Yeah. He's cutting his hair because long hair gets in his face. So he also cut the sleeve off his leather jacket and he tore up his gloves. So yeah, Mel Gibson did a lot to contribute to his costume.
And it looked amazing.
Oh yeah.
I'm glad he did.
Definitely iconic.
Yeah.
He had half of football gear, shoulder pads.
The one shoulder pad.
Right.
The one shoulder pad. Yeah. That's highly iconic. Yeah, the one big pauldron. Yeah. That's just great apocalyptic style.
Well, it also calls back to the type of armor that certain British knights had, where they would have asymmetrical design where you had this big protruding piece of metal sticking out to block swords from hitting the knight.
Yeah, the one pauldron for like fencing or what have you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's just rich. Yeah, I don't know if either of you have played any Soul Calibur, but there's a lot of like options to do one shoulder pauldron of armor in it, and I always just felt that was the richest design.
I played Soul Calibur, but never designed my own character there.
Yeah.
I got into it pretty heavily for a bit.
Heavily, huh?
Yeah, a little heavily. Yeah, I'm not saying I didn't make a bunch of sexy anime characters, but I'm not saying I didn't. I'm not saying I didn't do that, but I'm not saying.
Did they have assless chaps?
I did do it.
Yeah, that was an option on Full Color.
Almost exclusively.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, well, here's the thing. This is the
butts are always
the one
out
that you're about
anime.
to read is exclusively about assless chaps.
Ooh.
That's true. Speaking about assless chaps, and although it might not have looked it, the set was not warm. It was very cold. And everybody was in assless chaps. Mel Gibson, even though he was in this like heavy duty leather getup, he was spending his time between takes huddled under blankets. And the Marauders, of course, had all their assless chaps. I mean, the humongous was in nothing.
Yeah.
It was like a leather studded Speedo, a hockey mask, and like a harness.
Yeah. Yeah.
Something. I don't know how that dude survived if it was really that cold where they had to go in blankets.
Right.
And Gibson called Vernon Wells, who played Wes, right? Barometer bum. Because of the outfit he was wearing for the role of Wes with his assless chaps. So when Wells' butt cheeks went purple on set, George Miller finally sent everyone into a bus so that they could warm up.
That's insane.
That's crazy.
It's so funny. They're all just like
That's
keeping an eye on his butt cheeks to make sure they're not purple. Oh, they're purple. His butt cheeks are purple.
Right.
Thank you, Five. Thank you,
No,
Five.
he was probably saying, my butt cheeks are cold. My butt cheeks are cold, please. And George Miller was like, nah, yeah, see, it's fine. Yeah, look at his butt cheeks. They're not purple yet. And then, an hour later that they were purple. And he was like, son of a bitch. All right, everybody get in the bus. We got 10 minutes to warm up. Come on, we got to move this along.
Right.
That's just how I picture all directors.
Thank you, Ted. Go warm up your butt cheeks.
Thank you, Ted. Warm up our purple butt cheeks. And thank you, purple butt cheeks.
Right.
Yeah. God, this movie looks very hot.
Yes,
I can't believe it.
They did an amazing.
I don't know
job.
how they did that, but it really looked like warm, like sun beating down. That was amazing.
That's the thing about deserts. Like when you're out in the desert, it just looking out there, because like we have like clues about what the temperature is around here. Like the leaves are changed. Sometimes there's snow on the ground.
Yep.
A lot of times it's overcasted. There are a lot of clues, context clues to tell you what the temperature is. So you can like look outside, kind of guess at the temperature. But when you're out in the desert, especially like a desert in Australia, and their wintertime doesn't look like our wintertime. So their wintertime looks exactly like their summertime. It's just that the temperature is a bit chilly. So yeah, or way chilly, I should say. Apparently it's way chillier in certain parts of Australia.
So they were dressed like that. It was cold and it was raining, and then they were dressed like that out in the cold rain.
Well, only a week. I don't think anybody actually filmed in the rain. Like when you saw the rain in the film, I think that was just like establishment shots. It was a lot of times you saw the rain. It was just superimposed on top of everybody.
That's
else.
good.
So I don't think
nobody was actually had their asses out in the rain, in the
Mm-hmm.
freezing rain.
I don't think George Miller was that cruel. I mean, because I don't think the camera crew wanted to be out there, so I don't think he had any of his actors inside the rain.
Yeah.
Little icy raindrops hitting your bare ass cheeks.
Right.
Fuck that.
So that's it.
The movie I was on had a rainy set, and if there were scenes for butt cheeks, I think the producer would have torturously wanted people to go out in the rain with their butt cheeks. Thankfully, it was a documentary about the Native Americans in northern Wisconsin, no butt cheek shots that I knew of.
Right.
Maybe there was.
Those are on
maybe there will be.
Those are in the director's cut. So, anyways,
yeah.
So we're gonna move right along to the next segment. We're gonna find out what the critics thought. So the critics, they gave it on Rotten Tomatoes a 93%. The audience score is 86%, and IMDb reviews has it at 7.6 out of 10. So I've gathered a couple of the critics, see what they thought
Pretty
about
warm.
that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what?
It seems like, the ratings seem pretty warm based on those stats.
Well, what I like to do is I like to collect a couple of negative reviews, a couple of positive reviews, and, get the general feeling of how some people felt. Because like, even if it's like 93%, and I believe this is accurate because of the way people talked about this movie when I was growing up. Like I saw the movie like way later than after it was in theaters and whatnot. So it's like by the time I got to see it, I was like really jazzed up about to see it because of the way people used to talk about it. So I believe that people really generally enjoyed this film, but I also have an understanding that there are people that are not going to enjoy it. So, I got everybody together and let them have their say. So for instance, we have Pauline Kael from the New Yorker, and she wrote, "We may not feel crummy after the movie, but we feel hollow. The Road Warriors is for boys who want to go around slugging each other in the shoulder, and for men who wish that John Wayne were alive and 50 again." And you know what? Her comments are valid.
Yeah, it's a little more. It's a little more gay than maybe John Wayne would have liked.
Yeah.
Right.
I feel like,
but also there.
I don't know if he probably would have been like, yeah, I don't like seeing all these man butts.
Right.
I don't remember how he talked. But
I do think that the women's
bastard.
roles could have been beefed up a little bit. Maybe they kind of had like a couple of prominent bad girls in the movie as well, but the women roles were pretty bad. Right, they were pretty bad. But
Yeah.
what we see of them, as small as their roles were, we see that they had character, they had strength, they had integrity. So they overall, they especially on the women on the good guy side, they were very positively portrayed. But it was very much much a misogynistic male movie. So that's why I said,
yeah. I don't even think that that's wrong either. I think that there's some truth to that. Yeah.
But still, it was a fun action movie, and but I do understand her point, and her points are valid. That's why I said that. So, who's next?
So, Judy Stone, from the San Francisco Examiner, said, "There's plenty of tension, some humor, and a lot of polish, but finally, it wasn't any more memorable than your last fill-up at the service station. Boy, was she wrong, because this is widely considered to be the best action movie of all time. It's rated #1 in like 6 different big magazines.
Right.
I've never had a fill
at
up
the time,
that exciting. I've usually getting gas is pretty boring. It's never this intense. Never.
I'm glad I never had a fill up like that because there were a lot of explosions.
There's never that many asses out at a gas station.
Well, yeah, you don't go to gas stations in the city then.
But then David Starrett of Christian Science Monitor said, brute violence and fascist mentality are the hallmarks of this Australian fantasy, which is also a pretty harsh. I don't even know. I feel like the first one's more fascist than this one is, because the first one's kind of propaganda, and this one is, it has aspects of that, but I don't know. I don't know about that.
I don't think
I have this.
I don't think he knows what fascist means, because because it's like,
I think a lot of people who use that to describe movies don't know what it means. I had a professor call my work fascist before, and I'm like the furthest thing from that. So I don't know. I have this specific beef with people calling movies fascist. I think they think it's a buzzword,
right,
and they don't actually understand what it means.
Like, because the bad guys, I guess you could kind of say that they were fascists, but that's how they were coding. That's how they supposed to be portrayed, as they're basically a totalitarian government. You had the one leader and everybody capitulates to the one leader. Right. So that's how they rule. But on the other side, the community with the oil, they were more of, I don't want to say that they were a democracy, but I don't feel like the leader would kill the people who wanted to leave. Like, they were, like, he was making an argument. Like, there was a point where the bad guys offered them whether they could just leave peacefully or stay within their community and be slaughtered by the marauders. So there was a discussion going on. There was a leader trying to convince his people to stay and adhere to the plan that they had developed. And then there were some people that were going to leave. Like, had Mad Max not intervened, the people were going to leave, and the leader wasn't going to do anything about it. So this functions more as a democracy. So I don't understand where he's getting fascist from. And my take is that he doesn't actually know what that word means.
Right.
They were having an open dialogue. That's exactly the opposite of what fascism is.
Right. Absolutely. So I don't understand.
They function more like a commune than anything else.
Yes.
So.
Yes, that is correct.
Yeah. Obviously, like, what's his name? Pelagio.
Yeah.
He's like
Pappagallo.
coded as the leader, but there's not really a sense that he controls. I don't know.
Right. He's
not a dictator. Clearly,
he's in charge because he obviously has a plan, and people. He's probably said things and guided them through whatever hardships that they had, or whatever prosperous time that they had, that these people had. He probably guided them through that, so they trusted him. And like I said, he doesn't have the heaviest hand that he had was when he was trying to convince Max to stay. And then he got mad and he's like trying to rough up Max or trying to humiliate Max. And then Max had punched him. But he didn't like turn around and have his society kill Max or whatever. Because
he didn't send his Gestapo after Max.
What happened was he was desperate and he basically acted out of turn because he was desperate. And that's why he did what he did. But he didn't do it because he was somebody like Humongous, right? Who just, everybody who disobeyed Humongous had to pay a price, and they either they rode on the top of a car or he probably killed them.
Yeah. Is Christian Science Monitor, is that like a Christian news outlet?
I have no idea.
I've never even heard of that.
I've heard of it, so I know about it, but I've never read it. What I do is when I go on Rotten Tomatoes, I scan through the negative and positive reviews, and I pick out the reviews that sound interesting. Sometimes when I'm in a rush, it's a clutch moment. I just pick out the first couple of reviews.
That's valid. Totally valid.
But I couldn't tell you about the Christian Science Monitor. Lastly, we have Dave Kerr from Chicago Reader. He wrote, "For pure rhythm and visual panache, Miller has few real competitors. The climactic chase with its deft variation of tempo and point of view is a minor masterpiece." And in that, I think we can all agree.
Yes.
What does he mean by minor masterpiece? Like minor masterpiece?
Well, I'm not sure when he did this review. I'm pretty sure that was closer to when the movie opened, because I feel like he's probably seen better movies, or maybe this is not his type of movies. This is probably one of the earlier movies. This is definitely one of Miller's earlier movies. So he hasn't had a huge filmography. So I'm guessing by this comment that this is earlier in Miller's career.
Yeah.
And he's, I guess at the same time, he's not trying to butter Miller up too much, right? It's like, this is your second film. Slow down, dog. Right? Yeah. Slow down, boss. You're good.
Not like it is now.
Yeah, I'm not going to butter you up like all
It's just a minor masterpiece.
Yeah, it's a minor masterpiece. It's like, it's a masterpiece, but a minor masterpiece. Like, Pluto, you're a planet, but you're a dwarf planet. Slow your roll.
Oh, God, yeah.
All right, so that's it for Mad Max 2, The Road Warrior is, as of this recording, available on streaming. And in a fortnight, we'll be back with another exciting movie from yesteryear. I don't know yet what that movie will be or if we'll even have a guest, but I can tell you that it will be glorious. You can follow us on Twitter, TikTok, Blue Sky, Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and now YouTube and YouTube Music at Backlit Cinema. And then if you post, I'll try to respond. Don't forget that you can contact us at any of these places, or you can find us on fan mail at backlitcinema.com. So Wes King and Gunch, do you have any additional plugs?
Yeah, you can find me on TikTok at West Talk Movies. I love talking movies right now. I love talking about movies all the time. Right now, I am on a little bit. I'm not on a hiatus. I'm just slowing down because it is the school semester and I am deep into it. So I'll probably only be doing like 2 to 3 videos a week. But I am going to try to be a little bit more consistent this semester than I was last semester. But yeah, you can find me there. You can find me on the Filmsomniacs podcast with my wonderful co-host Gunch, and I will let him tell all his plugs now.
Yes, we are going to start up Filmsomniacs again pretty soon here. Very excited for that. And I'm Gunch on TikTok, Film Gunch. I now have a job that doesn't like suck the life out of me. That was a funny delivery.
Ladies and gentlemen,
but it's
you
true.
Didn't see it, but
I have a job.
When he said that, he just kind of shook his head. It was like it left a bad taste in his mouth.
I now have a job that doesn't actually make me want to throw up in my mouth a little bit. Like I actually enjoy this job a little bit. And for that reason, I'm back into I'm trying to get back into my daily TikTok regiment. So we've been posting movies every day for a week or two now. So
nice.
very excited about that, and we're going to keep it going. Yeah, I love it. So feel free to comment, message me if you got something funny, or if you got a recommendation that you think I should check out. I get a lot of messages from people, so I don't respond right away, but I always appreciate it, and I always do eventually get to them. So thank you.
Awesome.
And I'm finally I'm almost at 1,500 followers. I'm one away.
Congratulations. All right.
Yeah. Congrats.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
Thank you. So yeah, Zoe, thank you so much for having me on.
Thanks for coming on. I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah.
It's the more the merrier. I always say this is almost a panel show, so it's totally awesome.
Hell yeah!
This is a lot of fun, and we talked about a really cool movie.
Yeah,
I really like this.
Definitely one of the classics. So, one last time, if you like this show, then please help us grow by spreading the word about Backlit Cinema, the podcast. Believe me, it matters. I know you've enjoyed our guests, Wes King and Gunch, so please listen to Filmsomniacs wherever you're listening to podcasts, or you can watch it on Facebook. And then you can watch Wes Talk Movies, hosted by Wes, and Gunch_film, hosted by Gunch, as he said it just a minute ago, on TikTok. I've been Zoe Richardson. Please be safe. Share a movie from yesteryear with your family. Hug your loved ones. And if you're going to be anything, be outstanding.